everyone. It's time for the moment you've all been waiting for.
It is, isn't it? Street talk. What's been
Street
going on
talk
with our
time.
Toyah this week, eh?
That's right.
Looking forward to talking about that one.
That's one of the main stories. We don't have a storyline title because it would be insensitive.
I would
But
never.
Michael does have storylines names for the rest of them.
Because it doesn't matter if we're insensitive about those. We've got the Unroy Man story still. AMY Radio is about Amy on the
Are
radio.
you saying, like, why is she doing it?
I could be, couldn't I?
How dare you?
Willpower, which is something that Todd had to show a lot of this week. And also the power of a will.
Yes.
It's the stuff that's going on at number 11. We've got Dee Dee and Joel back together after a brief split.
Are they together?
Yes, I think that they had a snog this week. I can't remember, it happened on Monday. And then Steve has got a new lady, kind of, online called Demi. Is it love? Is it Demi Amour?
What does that mean?
Like Demi Moore.
Oh, Demi Amour.
Amour. Oh, I wish I could say a storyline title for the Toyah story.
I thought for a while when I was watching it, I was like, why have they named this woman Debbie when there's already a main character called Debbie?
No, it's Demi.
And then I realised...
Means half in French. Perfect with a half wit, eh?
Oh, yeah.
Right, how are we going to do this Toyah story then?
Well,
we got lots. We can run through it and then chat it. We can chat it as we go along. We can give a preamble.
I think we should just say now what we think. What do you think?
No, I see. I'm putting it on me
listen,
first.
Listen, I'm very mixed about this. I'm very confused.
That's not allowed on the internet. For this story, you have to be firm in your opinion, and that opinion is you have to hate it. If anything that we've seen online in the past. How long has this been? Has it been like 4 weeks since we heard about this one in the papers?
When did we go up?
Yeah, it was the first week of Easter.
Yeah.
It was that weekend. It was Easter weekend that this leaked. And go on, sorry, I
really
interrupted.
think the leak has got a lot to do with how this has been received, because we had 3 weeks of stewing about this and discussing online and people arguing. I haven't seen anyone said that they like it. I've only really seen people say that Georgia Taylor did a fantastic job and that the nicest thing I've heard is it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I've seen 1 or 2 of those.
But I genuinely can't believe that anybody doesn't think it wasn't as bad as they thought it was going to be, because the discourse that's gone on is it's like she murdered the baby with a spade and we watched her doing it. It wasn't as bad as everybody's saying. It is bad, and I'm trying to be positive about it, because relentless negativity is really starting to get to me about Coronation Street. I'm finding it really depressing. So I was trying to be positive, but even I don't really get why they've done this.
I'm on the side. I would say that I am enjoying it. I would say I've been, ever since we knew that this was going to be happening this week, I've been looking forward to watching it. I've been very intrigued to see how the performances would be, how it would tie into what went on 23 years ago, was it? And I very much enjoyed Monday and Wednesday's episodes in particular. There wasn't so much about it on Friday. I don't understand why they've done it.
No.
And I don't understand why it doesn't bother me, because it clearly should. There's 2 things, if you look online, about what people are not liking about this story. 1 is the retcon-ness of it, and 2 is just its more unrelenting misery. How do you feel about the misery side of it? Because I think the retcon is the most egregious fault of this story, if you look at the discourse online.
It's a really sensitive subject. It's not just a depressing subject, it's also a really fraught subject as well. What was your question? How
do you think that, do you think that the story's biggest problem is that it's a retcon or that it's miserable? And does either of those things bother you more than the other?
I think people are getting themselves caught up in not really understanding which one they're maddest about.
I don't know.
And I'm only saying this about online stuff because people have just whipped themselves into a frenzy. And of course, it's totally fine. I'm not trying to say that I don't agree with half of what's being said, but I just don't see how it's helped anybody to have had
There has been an awful
this
lot of
length
whipping
of
up
time.
into a frenzy, but I wouldn't want to put words into people's mouths, say, well, you don't know what you're talking about.
No, I think that
people have every right to be very, very mad about this.
Because
but yeah, those 3
happening at
weeks have
once.
not been helpful.
It's 3 things happening at once. It's not knowing what actually is going to happen. It's the subject matter that's really sensitive, and it's the fact that it's a retcon. And I think that people are some people. I'm not saying everybody, but I think some people are using the fact that it's a really awful story to kind of fuel their moral outrage about the retcon.
I don't know.
I'm not trying to say you can't be mad about both of them. I'm just saying that sometimes I think that people are hijacking a bit of the upset about the actual storyline and using it to bash Coronation Street for doing the retcon.
There's been an awful lot of misery in Coronation Street recently, and I'm not surprised at all that some people are saying, enough is enough, I've had it, just give me some laughs please. But that side of it really isn't bothering me too much. I am very, very understanding of the sensitivity of it, and everything with the stillbirth, horrific situation, and anybody who's watching it doesn't necessarily want to see that dramatised or be used to try and fuel what is possibly going to be an affair story between Nick and Toyah, which is what I'm actually most mad about. But for me personally, I'm not watching it going, oh, I can't take this is too much misery. I don't think that kind of thing ever affects me, whatever the topic is. It doesn't bother me as much as it does you when they have all these disease stories and oh, so-and-so's dying. It's just, I enjoy those in that I know that Corrie's actors are very, very good, and quite often when we have a story that's full of misery, we will get some fantastic performances, and this week we absolutely did. Georgia and Jane in particular, fantastic. That side doesn't bother me at all, but I still don't really understand why the retcon doesn't bother me. It should, as a bona fide proud nerd and geek of Coronation Street. We did see Toyah back then when she was supposedly pregnant, and I 100% get that people can't and shouldn't have to try and justify or try and balance the idea. Like, what is she? Is she not?
I feel like sometimes I'm put into a position where I have to justify things that has nothing to do with me, because we're doing this show, and if I like something, I sometimes feel like I have to explain myself, like I've done something wrong. And also, I just want to say, no matter what you think about this, even if you don't agree or anything, I just want you to know, I don't think you shouldn't have an opinion on it. I'm just saying some of the stuff I've seen. That's all I'm saying. Yeah. And if you're getting mad about it, it's probably not you that's doing it. So don't get mad about me saying it. But you can't say you haven't seen people doing that.
Yeah. No, of course.
I just want to also say quickly who wrote these episodes, because we had John Kerr and Ellen Taylor on Monday. Mm-hmm. Then we had Jan McVerry on Wednesday.
Jan McVerry actually did the first half on Wednesday. I can't remember who did the second half. We had Ian Kershaw. He did the whole lot of Friday. So in many ways, they did get the good top drawer writers out to write what is going to be quite sensitive topics. And I think the scripts were very, very good. And one of the things that I have seen people saying since Wednesday's episode, since the conversation between Toyah and Nick, is that the dialogue and the performances certainly sold it in a way. Some people were saying, I can never accept this, and some people said, although I still think it's absolutely ridiculous, I can't believe this, but at least the writing and the performances made it a bit easier.
It was Jan McVerry and Nessa Muffy.
Oh, okay.
So it was good they had women writing some of these things. I trust Ian Kershaw to write from almost any perspective, so I think he did a good job. Mm-hmm. The bulk of it happened at the sort of the second half of Monday, didn't it? And then
it was the
spate.
Yeah, second half of Monday and Wednesday was when it really kicked off.
My only slight niggle about the writing of it was the way it felt as though Toyah's character was explaining to us, the audience, why it's possible that this happened. She really explained everything and in quite a lot of detail about why she didn't explain it at the time, why didn't she say anything, how did it happen, like in real detail. But I thought it felt more like the sort of thing you would write to explain why it was in the show you never saw her doing any of this stuff.
Rather than just telling
a conversation
Nick and
that you would have with your brother-in-law about something.
Yeah.
Like that, there was a lot of like and then I did this, and then I was going to say that.
And the reason that I couldn't say this to Les and Janice is because X, Y, and Z.
And Leanne wasn't here, like, but there were so many other good details and things that really was believable about how Toyah was explaining.
The thing is, they had to put all that detail in, though. Otherwise, people would just...
I know.
I think
that's the trouble.
Writers knew that they
did.
had a very, very difficult task, and they knew that people like us would be watching it and going through that script with a fine-tooth comb, and would be going, but hang about whatever. So they had to try and deflect that, and there's still been how about whatevers, because if you look at what Toyah was like back in the second half of 2001... it can be, it's very, very difficult to try and believe that she was pregnant. And she said it's 26 weeks.
But she didn't know she was pregnant.
No, I'm glad that they put that in at least. And that reminds me of the Abby story from a few years ago. And when she gave birth on the roadside, I remember finding it quite difficult then to believe that somebody could get that far into pregnancy without realising. But that's not strictly true though, is it? It's not to do with not believing that somebody can be pregnant and not know it and give birth, because we know it happens. It's to do with what you look like. Both of them are very slight, very small women. Yeah, Abby did not look pregnant when she gave birth to Alfie. I'm never going to say anything about whether or not that, I don't want to start talking about people's size and things. I think it's still possible that you could be a very small lady. Well, because it depends on how you carry the fetus. Yeah. Sometimes it goes up. Stick it behind your back. Sometimes it goes up in your ribs. So I've kind of over the years just made peace with the fact that, okay, Abby didn't look pregnant. It came out of nowhere. It was a great episode when she had the baby. So, she was pregnant. That's fine. And I think my acceptance of that has helped me to accept the idea that Toyah was pregnant more. And, it's a shame that it's only just fairly recently, in the last year or two, been shown on ITV3. So it's been quite fresh in people's minds. Somebody made a great thread on Twitter the other day, which showed all of Toyah's appearances in, from September to November. There wasn't a whole lot that she was in it, and there certainly were some gaps of 2 maybe to 3 weeks at times when this could technically have happened. And I think one of the things you said, that the leak happening before has allowed people to whip themselves into a frenzy before it's even aired, and they kind of went into the episode with a negative view. I'm not going to say that wasn't me as well. No, it was the opposite for me. But I think because that allowed me the time to try and make sense of it myself and go, look, they're clearly going down this route. I might think it was a bit of a silly thing for them to do. It's certainly not the sort of thing that I'd want them to make a habit of. And I totally get where people are saying, they could, if we say they can do it once, then they'll do it all over the place now. What if they decide that's definitely a problem. 10 years ago, when so-and-so was off screen for 3 weeks, they didn't have a baby, or maybe so-and-so murdered somebody when we didn't see them for 5 weeks. When Roy was in South America a few years ago, maybe... She was on screen. That's the thing. Well, she was on screen. She was on screen. There were a few weeks. I think it seems to me that whoever came up with the idea of this, whether it's an Ian McLeod or whether it's a writer's, and I do feel sorry for whoever it is, because I've seen a lot of people online saying, sack the writers, it's all the writers' fault, how could they do this? The writers do come together they pitch. I mean, that's what they were doing a few weeks ago when we were up in Manchester. What were they up to? What were they deciding next? But whoever this idea is, I think that they kind of had it set in their minds that they really wanted to do this, and then would have looked back, maybe asked the archivists, is this possible? When they would have been told, kind of technically it's possible, and great, let's do that then. And how probable it is maybe didn't play a whole lot into it. Clearly the person decided this is what I want to do, and if there's the slightest possibility that it could have happened, I'm going to say it's happened. And I don't want them to start doing that all the time, but I've made peace with it, and in my head it's not made me mad, because I'm just saying, okay, that's what they're saying has happened. I'd rather sit back and enjoy the story. I hope I'll enjoy the story, but I am very worried about where it's looking like it's going to go. I don't want to be watching it feeling mad. And this year's not been the best for Coronation Street. I could do with a story that I'm not going into watching feeling mad. I want to be able to watch something and go, oh, yeah, this has got some characters in that I like. This is quite an exciting revelation. This has got some great performances. So that's where I'm at with it. It's like, don't like it, but I've accepted it.
I definitely agree with some people who've said, why on earth did it have to be when she was on screen? She was off screen for years. Why did it have to be that particular storyline was when she had the baby? I don't understand the logic there. That there's no link. She didn't say anything about, is it my fault because I was the victim of rape and therefore I rejected her somehow or something like that. If there had been any justification as to why this was a particularly important time to have set this, then I would have given it a bit more leeway. But it's sad that they did it.
It's still the beginning. We don't know. Maybe Phil Simmonds is going to be coming back. I don't know.
I don't know. It feels to me like they did it in an episode. They had to build up on Monday. They did an episode about it on Wednesday, and that's it. And if that truly is the end of it, I'm going to be furious.
If it's a short-term shock, a huge, huge change, and
massive
retcon or revision, Gemma?
It's a revision.
Oh, I don't get into this yet. We haven't even mentioned the bonus podcast this week yet, have we?
Listen to our bonus episode. I know some people are going to argue with me about this, that it is a retcon and not a revision. But it technically is possible, and I know that people hate that. It's
stretching the boundaries.
It does stretch the boundaries, but as much as you hate it, you have to admit it is possible that it happened when we didn't see it. And I know it's silly, and I wish they hadn't done it that way. I think we were talking, weren't we, about how does this recontextualise some of what Toyah has gone through? Because I've seen a lot of people arguing this as well, saying, why wouldn't she have said something about this when this happened? And this would have been the perfect time for her to have said that. And why has she been hiding this and not said it when this opportunity came up? What do you think of that?
I mean, if you've got something as big as this, and I'm just trying to step into the shoes of somebody who's delivered a stillborn baby and buried it under a rose bush in a park. For all this time, it's going to be very, very difficult to... I don't know why this particularly was the moment that she decided to reveal it, because it was so close to being caught. Because she
lashed out and she thought it was going to be uncovered, so she kind of thought she didn't have anything to lose.
But didn't she talk a little bit about seeing gynecologists over the years, and some of them she did mention it to?
She said it to one person.
Because I don't know how these things work. And somebody else said
they would have known that she'd had a baby before.
Yeah, if she was going through all of this intensive IVF treatment and scans left, right, and centre, can that? I don't know. And people are saying people must think that the Corrie viewers are stupid, and maybe I'm just saying, yeah, maybe I am. Maybe my ignorance of the internal matters of women's reproductive systems is keeping me blissfully ignorant about this.
One of the things that happens in a story like this is I take the opposite side to what people are saying online, because I'm contrarian, but also because I think that it's nice to have a balance. And so, although I'm arguing about some of the points, doesn't necessarily mean that I'm wholeheartedly believing it, and I certainly would never have chosen to. I think this story was a mistake, just to make that clear to everybody. But in the interest of balance, I'm going to say that to me, that didn't feel like a problem. Why hasn't she said anything? She was a scared girl. She did something wrong. I don't think you're supposed to just bury. I think that's illegal.
Possibly.
I don't think that I think that she should have gone. I'm not saying that. I don't think that is wrong, but legally speaking, I think that there's implications here that should have been addressed at the time. But because it was the result of rape, she's already feeling vulnerable and scared and shamed. And then she has this baby she didn't know she had. She felt like, is it my fault? What can I do? I don't think it's unnatural how she reacted, and I don't think that it's unnatural that she would have kept that to herself. As she grew older, she probably would have started to realise that she could have possibly said something and it would have been fine. I mean, of course it would have been fine. It wasn't her bloody fault.
Yeah.
But she wasn't in a really supportive family unit. Although they tried their best, they weren't very emotionally literate. Even Janice.
Janice maybe a bit more so. But like Toyah said, she was going through that whole affair with Dennis at the time.
Yeah.
Thinking, well, maybe it was just about starting.
And then at which point do you then say, oh, I buried a baby in a park? When do you bring that up?
Mm.
The fact is, if this thing hadn't happened with the people going there with their shovels, she still wouldn't have said anything. Still would have been a secret. And if you go back and you look at some of the scenes when she was, for example, when she helped deliver
Baby Susie, that's straight away what came to me, and I didn't even think well, not straight away. I thought about it this week rather than a few weeks ago when it came out.
Yeah.
But
So
my
Susie
mind was
Eva's baby, and they were in an abandoned farmhouse. Not
something
abandoned.
like that.
There's
Yeah.
a farmhouse.
Eva was hiding out so she could have her baby in secret, so
Yes.
that Toyah could take it. And straight away, as I was watching it on Wednesday, I thought, oh my gosh, that recontextualizes that completely, because when the baby came out, it wasn't breathing. She wasn't breathing, and Toyah had to resuscitate this newborn baby.
Yeah.
And now we know that this has happened, because we have to accept this has happened, and if you can't accept that, then it's gonna just stick in your gullet forever.
Just imagine how traumatized she was, like by another baby being born.
Yeah.
And it was a baby that's supposed to be hers again. And it would have been better if they wanted to have the story for it to have come out then. But at the same time, it's not really a good time to bring it up, is it? When your fake sister's having a baby.
Yeah, quite.
Then you go, oh, I buried a baby.
I had one of them.
Yeah, I mean, there are opportunities. And when Leanne had her baby, when Oliver
in the lift, was
Toyah there?
Yeah, Toyah was there then.
Again, she's had to watch other women give birth and remembering what happened to her. And people say, I've heard people say it doesn't make sense that why she would want a baby so much, or her fertility story doesn't make sense based on this. But I don't see how that's related at all. I don't think that having a stillborn baby makes you more or less likely to want a baby of another baby in the future. Do you? I don't see what that link is there.
I don't know. I mean, I suppose it's not like she's saying, "Oh, I want a replacement," or "I got it." Or is she saying, "I got it wrong the first time. I need to do it again"?
I don't think we should really stray too far into understanding what the problem. But
I think it could go some way to explaining just how tragic and just how desperate she was, and because there was a great scene after she went to a fertility clinic 5-6 years ago, and she came out and was, after having been told that it wasn't successful, and then she just kind of sobbed outside the clinic, and I can go back now, and if we had to believe this happened with baby Rose, thinking it adds more to it for me.
It does add a bit more to it. It adds a lot of questions as well. I mean, have we run out of
questions that we're going to have to suppress, even though we shouldn't? It should make more sense. I think, you've said, I don't think this was the right decision to go through with this, but that they have now, so we just have to deal with it.
You can't fault Georgia Taylor's performance.
No.
She did a really good job. When I was watching it, I was thinking, why is she telling Nick this? I don't care about Nick. I don't think Nick's the right person for this at all. He's got no conception of what it's like to be a woman, or to have a baby, or to lose a child from your body. Why Nick? And now I know why Nick, because they're going to make them have an affair, is my opinion. And if this whole story was what's the word? Concocted for the purposes of having them have an affair, it just seems like such a stupid move to me, because they were already being pushed away. The whole point of the cult storyline is that Leanne's pushing everybody away, and the mechanism of the cult is like a perpetuating system whereby she continues to push people away. They become more alienated. They question her very deeply held belief system. She then rejects them more. The process by which she is being indoctrinated into the cult should have been the process by which Nick and Toyah became close enough to have an affair. Not this crazy... I kind of wish if they had wanted to do this Toyah's buried a baby story, they had set it when we hadn't seen her on screen. It didn't have to be...
But she wasn't living in Weatherfield then, so it wouldn't have been able to be buried nearby. She went away to London. She was living in Liverpool, I think, for a while with Janice. She wasn't just round the corner. So,
I don't really care.
But
I think,
if they were going to go there,
that can't be the reason that they. Oh, all right, okay, maybe it is the reason. In which case, it's a silly reason. But I had another point that I can't remember now.
Yeah, it's so. Hang
on, yeah. And if I would rather that if they were going to do this story, I'd rather they hadn't made it when I said, and it also would rather it was actually its own story, not just a prop for a story that I don't want to happen.
If all of this massive retcon / revision is there for a 2-episode, if you're lucky, kind of big climax and shock, and then it just gets onto this affair story and that's it. That is a even bigger mistake than coming up with the retcon in the beginning. If they're going to make something of this and have it last for months, or something that's going to be haunting Toyah for years, and this is only the beginning of the Toyah buried a baby story, I'll say, okay, I accept this a bit more and I'll go along with the ride. But yeah, like you said, there are much less destructive to a show's history and canon ways to start an affair. And
it undermines the fans' faith in the show, is what they've done, really. And although you might say I've been trying to defend it, I like I said, it's just my instinct to try to give a bit of balance. And I think it's fair to give a bit of balance sometimes, because obviously enough people at Corrie believe this was a good idea.
Well, I don't. This is the other thing. Do they, or is it just down? If it was an Ian McLeod idea, is it him saying, no, this is what I'm doing, and yeah, I might hear some criticism or what ifs or how abouts from everyone else, but this is what I'm going for. And it just so happens to fall with when he's decided to leave the programme, because when this was filmed, he'd already moved on to be executive producer. I know he's still in charge of Corrie, but yeah, if this were... I've seen people saying, why didn't the writers refuse to write this? Why didn't Georgia Taylor refuse to film this? As nice as that would be, I really don't believe that it works like that.
It can't work like that, for a start. You have to have creative vision that's very... You have to have somebody at the top, right? And you can't have everybody just continually undermining them and saying, well, if I don't get my way, I'm just not going to write it at all. There are loads of really controversial things that have happened on Coronation Street that people hated and the cast hated, and they didn't want to do it, but they did it anyway. And there are a few notable exceptions of people that quit because they didn't want to do a certain story. And rumours and some are rumours, some are fact that we know. I'm not going to get into that. But... You can't go into a job like being an actor or a writer for a soap and say I'm only going to do it if I can do it exactly how I want it to be done. And when you're a writer for an episode, you get given what's going to happen. You don't get to pick what you write about. You can't just sneakily not write it in and hope nobody notices that there's no scene in there where Toyah confesses that she buried a baby.
You've got a job to do, and it is a privilege to work on Coronation Street, and you don't want to risk your job by saying, no, I'm not going to do that.
The people that said they shouldn't do it, I would love them to tell me when they in their job have ever done something where they would probably get fired. You know?
Yeah. I'm sure that there are some people on Coronation Street that don't particularly care as much about their character as other people do, and they just say their line. Some people sort of live and breathe their character, and I know that for Georgia Taylor, Toyah is a very, very important character for her, and she cares about how she acts, and she's got lots of ideas for what she wants Toyah to be, and I don't want to...
Yeah, I just want to say, it's all very well to say, oh, she should, this person should have not refused to do it. There's a certain kind of like loyalty you have to your viewers and your fans as well. Yeah. If say a character was supposed to be, do something and they said I'm not going to do it, and they said, right, I'll quit, then you're just denying the people that like your character access to that character. That character will never be in the show again.
Yeah, and Toyah had been very, very quiet on screen for the past year and a half as well, hadn't she? So this, for me, is a chance to get to see more of her, which I think is good. There's also the case that for her character, one might say that, you know, it's already been ruined a bit. We gave her the what do we call it? What do we call it?
Ruined her character.
Character Assassination Award after the whole She Killed Imran debacle.
Yes, well. Look,
But
I'm not trying to be specific about anyone here. I'm just trying to talk in general terms about should actors do this and should writers do that. And I think, professionally speaking, it would be a silly move to sort of say I'm not doing that, and I'll quit the show because. I mean, I'm sure that there are people that have input on their stories and can kind of dissuade a certain story from happening, and sometimes that's a really good thing. But it doesn't mean that everybody can or should.
Yeah.
And it's happened now. And I think we can all agree that Georgia Taylor did a really, really fantastic job. And, you know, we get to see her perform. And maybe you didn't like what she was, you know, the story that she was performing in, but you can't deny it was another really fantastic performance that we wouldn't have got to see if they hadn't had that story. I don't know.
Yeah, so to me it really does hinge on what they're going to do with it now. And if it's nothing, then what a massive mistake that was.
And I also don't want anyone to read anything too far into anything we said here, because we haven't spoken about this. Have we?
What do you mean?
We haven't spoken about this to anybody on the show. We haven't spoken to any writers. We haven't spoken to any of the actors about this specific story and why did this happen and what, you know. So please don't read anything that we've said in as our reporting of something, because it's just our thoughts as people that watch the show. Nothing more than that.
But this potential affair between Toyah and Nick, I mean, that's signposted so massively.
Well, again, that's just us. That's just a prediction.
That's a prediction that we and many others have made.
But it could turn out to be one of those ones where it's a flash in the pan and Nick comes on to Toyah or vice versa, and it's not reciprocated. Yeah,
well, I don't need any other affair at the moment. It feels like we've only just come out of the Tommy Tracy affair. There was, you know, Tyrone and Alina a few years ago. There's still Cassie kind of issue, will she, won't she, with Kevin. I don't need another affair, particularly here, when I do believe that Leanne and Nick are good for each other. And I know Leanne can be a royal pain in the arse sometimes, but then so can Nick. But I think, and we said this when they got together, and not everybody agreed. I think when we were saying, oh yeah, Tracy and Steve, they seem to fit together. Nick and Leanne, they've got a 25-odd-year-old history. They seem to fit together. So I think it would be a massive, massive shame if, just for the sake of sensationalism, they blew up this couple that I feel belong together, just for the sake of another silly affair story. And I don't think that Toyah and Nick are suited.
No.
As
when they were talking,
sensible as they are.
When Toyah was talking to Nick, I was like, I don't.
What do they have in common?
There's
a
nothing.
Shared distrust of the Institute, and that's about it.
And they both like Leanne.
They both like running. Both like going for a jog, don't they?
I don't know that Toyah does in the show.
She's had a few. Remember that jog she had with wearing that cap that one time?
Oh, she did run around with a cap on.
Who can forget that? Anyway, I'm sure there'll be lots more things that come out of this as we discuss what actually happened in the synopsis, but we've said our thoughts about it for half an hour or so, because I suppose, it's right that we get them out of the way first.
And, you know, just to reiterate, none of this information or anything that we said or any opinions or ideas about why someone should have done something or not comes from a conversation that we had with anybody on the show.
Okay.
I just really want to make that very, very clear.
Do you want to do the synopsis of this?
Yeah.
You don't trust me not to be sensitive about this, do you? Go on.
So, can I really want to say,
Just
I love the
one
Institute
thing.
stuff. I'm just still loving the Institute stuff. But I do have...
You had a bit of a criticism about that on Friday.
I'm going to say this now. Ian Kershaw. It's like I think Ian Kershaw's like having a go at me because unless Glenda came up with this, unless
Jodie
Pranger came up with this herself, to say that Southerners don't know what hot pot is and think it might be spicy, I felt personally attacked by that. I was furious. That made me more mad than anything.
That made you more mad than
I was like, I said to you,
a baby in
I was
the
like,
park.
Michael, can you pause it and take it back just a minute, see what Glenda just said then? I just want to hear it again. That is what I thought she said. That's interesting. That's very interesting. I'm going to remember this.
At least he didn't write it into Friday's episode, Toyah mentioning that she fell pregnant with a baby.
Well, yeah, I did say fell pregnant quite a few times as we were watching it. Right, so Monday, Leanne is doing more of her institute revision. Toyah's ridiculing her, and Sam is going to look after Freddie today because this happens as well.
Yeah, I've the most of the Roy stuff I've separated out from this, but there's going to be some crossover.
Well, this happens first anyway. So.
Yeah.
Sam picks up Freddie from the cafe and a customer's spying and seeing what's going on. And he comes back later. He's all aflap because he let Freddie off the lead and he's gone missing. So Nina and Evelyn head out to look for him. And as she goes out of the cafe, she bumps into Kirk and Toyah, who say, I will help you out. And then Nina says, can you please look in North Cross Park because he might be there? And Toyah goes, I've never reacted to the words North Cross Park before, but today...
I don't know whether it's North Cross or Norcross, I can't remember.
I think Norcross is the women's prison.
Oh, maybe. Maybe it's the park next to the prison.
Suspicious.
Who knows? This is the one thing, when the rumours came out about this story, they all said it was going to happen on the Red Wreck.
Yes.
Didn't they? And I think, doesn't Toyah in Wednesday, or was it maybe at Friday's episode, say I didn't want to do it on the Red Wreck because it's too close or too...
Well,
I can't remember.
The writers probably realised, everything else aside, that would have been another thing that made this quite implausible because there have been many mentions and things that have happened. Like, for example, when Maria was talking about they were going to put a bypass over the Red Wreck.
Oh, yeah.
There would have been no reason why she would have not flipped out then compared to now, because it's the same exact situation.
At least the dig up of the Red Wreck was before she was supposedly pregnant.
What do you mean?
No, the other time that the Red Wreck was going to be dug up was when Emily went up the tree.
Yeah, well, I don't remember that.
Toyah hadn't had a baby yet.
And shagging about with Spider.
Yeah,
that
before.
Okay, well.
Yeah, but yeah, so
North
it's a shame
Park.
because when I first heard about the story and that it was going to be on the Red Wreck, I thought the storyline title could be the Red Wreck-Con, but sadly not.
It's a revision.
Yeah.
I don't care anymore. Right, so Leanne does zoom in with Rowan, and she's like, what do I need to do with my journaling? And he tells her to write everything down because the Institute can sift through the files, keep the good ones, and send the bad ones to the trash. He asks her about Simon's business plan, and she's not going to invest, which she's quite happy about. And he also gets told about Toyah's negativity, and Rowan says, just distance yourself from that. So
classic cult behaviour.
This is really like in the playbook of big. When I don't want to say the name because I feel like we're going to get
sued.
Targeted. But you get people to write down all the worst things you've ever done, and then you use it to blackmail them. Mm. So Toyah arrives at the park and she does a bit of like fade jump searching, which is how I wish I could.
Wasn't it? She's just like warping through the park.
Wish I could do that when I'm looking at something. So she goes for a wander and she sees a yellow rose bush, which was the most unbelievable part of the story.
You got really mad about this.
Don't talk to me about retcons and revisions when nobody's mad about the fact there was a yellow rose in bloom in April.
Yeah, none of our rose bushes have quite managed that feat yet, have they?
No.
And it did look odd amongst the rest of the green and
barren landscape
twigs of the park.
This was filmed like a month and a half before we saw it, at least.
Oh yeah, at least this would have been filmed back in
March.
February time.
Yeah, February, March. So it's stupid, absolutely stupid.
It's a nice park though, if you ever want to go there. Where it was filmed, it's called Long. What's it called? I don't remember what it's called. But anyway, it's very nice, and there's a little animal enclosure there. There's goats. There's goats there.
Go, and there's a really nice cafe, and they do soup.
Yes.
I remember it's called Longford Park.
Oh yes.
Longford Park, and it obviously has a microclimate there. It's very warm.
That if we can believe that Toyah got pregnant in 2001, surely we can believe there's a little microclimate, just a little gap in the ozone layer or something that's pointing right directly above that little
big
patch
magnifying glass
that lets a rose bush bloom all year round.
So she sees some people with a spade about to do some digging, including the dodgy person from the cafe, and they say, "Oh, Creepy Cropper's dog was digging here earlier. We reckon this is where Lauren's buried." Toyah's not having it. She takes a spade from them and she smashes their car window in, and they're filming her doing this.
See, I didn't like this.
That doesn't seem to have come back on her yet either. Do you reckon that's...
I didn't. I think that having characters smashing things up just for a bit of pre-break drama, don't like it. Was it Kevin smashed up somebody's car the other year, didn't he? I think I just don't believe it's in their character. It's just a silly shock. I wish he hadn't done that. I wish he'd just kind of grabbed it and been a bit insane with the spade. But the other thing, having that be the spot where Freddie, apparently Doug, and the person from the cafe happened to be there. I know that they said that they were going to be walking in the park, but there was an awful lot of coincidences merging together at that one spot there, wasn't there? To me, that's the bigger problem as a viewer.
Where did they get the rose from?
Don't worry.
Where did it come from? What is a plant? Where did they get it from?
Don't worry about that. So they've decided that Lauren is buried there.
Because of Creepy Crawler's dog.
Yes.
So, I mean, I'm also going to say, the hyperbole of her, like, smashing the car window and stuff just for a soap mag picture or whatever. Is this why they got papped? Because...
Yeah, this was what was papped, you're right.
This story came out with the picture, didn't it?
No.
Came out first.
A few days before Easter, the story broke in the papers. I think it was the Sun that leaked it.
That's true.
And then I think about a week later or so, there were pictures of Toyah with a spade that appeared, and these were before. Yeah, these were PAP pictures. These weren't official ITV Danielle Bagley photos. These are ones that people had been... And again, it makes me just think, well, no wonder they don't want to be doing their location shoots. It's really, really annoying. I hate any kind of leak like this. Coronation Street are bad enough at telling us too much that's going to happen before it happens. But to have people from within Coronation Street or leakers going to the paper about it... I mean, if you were just there watching, you wouldn't know the details of the story, would you?
There's nothing in the
So the leak, the information about Toyah burying a baby there, that's come from somebody inside. And it just so happened that the person happened to take the photos. It was interesting that they took so long to get the photos to the papers.
I think they were trying to get more money for it because they knew it was a bigger story than...
Yeah, they must have been sitting on these until they realised what it was. But they could have put these out in the papers, months ago. But
I really would love to know what happened with those photos and the leaks, but we'll probably never will.
Know.
So Toyah threatens them a bit more, and then Nick comes along and takes her back to the flat.
Good old Nick happens to be there, just in the
Nick of time. So they get back to the flat, and Toyah has a massive go at Sam for losing Freddie, and then Nick's like, "Oh, what's got into you?" And then she just cries. Which is what I would always do if Nick had a go at me.
I saw some people online, I can't remember where it was, saying that when Toyah was shouting at Sam then, we didn't actually see Georgia and Sam in the same shot, and wondered whether she wasn't actually shouting at you, Jordan, because maybe you're not allowed to shout at children on set. I don't know, that makes sense to me. We
can't make any good movies if we can't shout at children. Maybe he was just at school.
I don't... Well, he was in the scene, but just not that particular shot. Anyway.
I can't speculate on it.
Not at all.
So, Toyah apologises to Nick later, and she says, I don't know what's come over me. And he says, look, what is this to do with? Is it because you're sad about Roy? Because you're really overreacting. And she's about to tell him when the intercom buzzes and, the police did come. The police come and say, what are you doing? And she says, they're horrible, aren't they? And Craig's the policeman, isn't he? She says they're sick, twisted ghouls. They're not victims. And Craig's trying to say, look, you can't just smash people's windows. Joel's there. They go to the police station. I missed that.
How did you miss that?
Because I didn't read it. They go to the police station, and Joel's like, look, can we have a chat here?
Toyah's just getting a bit of an attitude here.
You better stop being a bitch.
That's Leanne's job.
Maybe it's because Leanne's not holding her end up, and Toyah's like, the Battersby sisters, one of us has got to be a bitch.
One of them's gone soft. Leanne's gone soft. I suppose I better step up to the plate to be the massive cow now.
So the interview resumes, and Toyah says, sorry, just I got overreacted when someone was bad-mouthing Roy. And Craig says, look, pay for the damage and we'll let you off with a conditional caution.
I think maybe what Toyah was just getting mad about is the fact that Craig was interviewing her. And I think
I
if
would
I
be
was
as
in
well,
Craig's
yeah.
position, I'd be like, you're just my neighbour. You're not a real policeman, are you? I'm sorry, I do not respect your authority. Just let me out of here. Because it could have been somebody else. This is what I hate. Put more anonymous policemen in, please. It can't and shouldn't be Craig all the time.
What about the silent partner?
Anyone. It can't just be him and Swain from now on that do all the interviews. It's silly.
Toyah gets home and Nick, Leanne and Simon all have a go at her. And Leanne says she's worried. And Toyah says, oh, worry about yourself. Have you done any reality coding today? And then it's like, I'm going. She storms off. I really liked her just being a bitch to Leanne. She goes to the florist. She buys a yellow rose. And Joel finds her walking along with it in her hand. And she tells him it's for Leanne. But then she goes to the tram stop instead of going home.
Set up for the next episode.
Later on, Leanne's clattering about the flat, really angry, in a mood. And Nick's like, I'm really worried about Toyah. I don't believe that she's worried about Roy.
There's
and
something
then
else.
We cut to Toyah in the park, night filter firmly in place. She lays the rose on the ground and says, I'm so sorry.
I'd love to be able to have been with somebody watching that on Monday who hadn't seen the leaks and who was wondering,
what the hell
was it
this?
set up to suggest that maybe Toyah had been murdered Lauren and put Lauren under the red rag? Because we knew what it was be, I couldn't fathom any other possibility.
That would have been really good if I'd thought that.
Yeah, it was a really great mystery, but it's not even something that Corrie tried to keep a mystery, because if you'd have looked at the synopsis for the next episode, it says exactly what happened. But that is the sort of thing that they should do more of, keeping until broadcast.
Yes, of course. But can we just add in another mind-boggling twist to this already stretch the imagination storyline? Why would you bring a rose to a rose bush? Doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. What do you think about it?
It's like taking Coles to Newcastle, isn't it?
On Wednesday.
This little voice comes out the ground. So I've already got one.
I'm growing on my own fence. Wednesday, Toya's having a maudlin moment in the morning. Leanne's unsympathetic and she's got an upload session with Rowan later. And so then Joel speaks to Leanne in the cafe and mentions this yellow rose. And Leanne says, well, she never gave it to me. She probably just such a mood she put it straight in the bin. So in the bistro, Leanne tells Toyah in some institute speak that she should get some perspective, and having a go at those online weirdos is just a waste of energy. I wonder, what was that? I think was it Jan McFerry at the beginning? Is that her like being like, just remember, don't go online and read what people say about this story.
Everyone on the internet's a big old troll.
All these weirdos online always having a go. I think it definitely is a waste of energy sometimes, but we also enjoy it, don't we?
Oh, you love it.
Being a weirdo on the internet. Toyah just gets more wound up by Leanne trying to lecture her, and it must be really frustrating to be a mental health professional and have somebody like trying to tell you all this jargon nonsense all the time. So Nick comes in later and Toya's crying on the floor, and she says, "Oh, I hate what's come between me and Leanne." And he says, "Look, there's more going on here than you're telling me." And then she just comes out and says, "I buried my baby right there in North Cross Park." And this is when we get the backstory, the exposition dump. She says, "I was 19. I didn't know I was pregnant until the contractions started." I just want to interject here that Georgia Taylor did a really good job of making this sound real. I'm just reading it.
Yeah, this is why you're not an actress.
No,
I knew that she would. I 100% knew that she would smash this. That is why I went into Wednesday's episode really eager to see it, and lots of other people I know went into Wednesday's episode ready to just slate anything that happened. But I was so looking forward to this, and I was not let down.
I think most people, even if they didn't like this, thought, okay, but I know that Georgia Taylor's going to do a great job.
Yeah.
And that's what apart from I hate this retcon and they shouldn't have done it and pointing out the flaws, that's just been one of the overall comments.
Yeah, there has been an awful lot of praise for her online this week.
So she says, the contractions started in my bedroom. Janice and Les were in the bingo, spent the whole night bickering afterwards. And she was 26...
64 weeks pregnant.
She said...
I don't know, still wasn't showing though, somehow.
I was 26 weeks. It wasn't a miscarriage. It wasn't a miscarriage, you've written? It wasn't a miscarriage. It wasn't a miscarriage?
No. Nick said, how pregnant were you when you miscarried? And she said it wasn't a miscarriage, it was a stillbirth. Okay.
And I also saw somebody saying, "Oh, how does she know how far along she was if she was raped? Like, if she didn't know she was pregnant, it's because she knows where the baby came. It's very easy to work out because she knows that it was because she was raped."
Which is why I think that I just wish they'd said 27 or 28 because that would have been a better time period for it to fit in then. But oh well.
Oh, I just want to additionally say we when we first heard about this, we quickly went and looked back at the old episode when she went to hospital immediately following the rape, and they definitely said that she should take a pill. But we didn't. I don't think we saw her taking it.
I don't think so. We just kind of had a quick skim through the post-rape episodes. Which, here's a fact for you: the episode after Toyah's rape, the one where she's found, is Corrie's longest ever episode.
Is it?
At 70 minutes. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
There you go.
So yeah, we didn't see her take it. We assumed that she did, but maybe she didn't. And also, somebody said something like she took a pregnancy test. I don't think she did.
I don't know whether she did. I'm not going to say she didn't. Or I'm not even going to say I don't think she did. But
I think that you just would assume that she did. And they tell her to. But you wouldn't... There's no way you would have taken one immediately following that, would you? Because it would... Unless it wouldn't have shown anything.
I don't know.
It takes a while for it to...
I don't get why she wouldn't have taken a morning after pill. If she was advised,
yes, but
why
also,
didn't she take one?
Yeah, but can I just point out that it's not like it's not magic. They don't always work, and I know it's a series of astonishing coincidences, and
which is what I was
events.
saying earlier. If MacLeod came up with this and said, "Oh yeah, but could it have happened?"
Yes, it could have happened.
Yes, if
many of these things could have happened, but also she could have won the lottery.
Yeah.
But that didn't happen.
Well, people seem to win the lottery on Coronation Street quite
but we moan about
regularity.
That. We moan about that.
Yeah.
Okay. We're not... I thought I'd just say that as an aside. She said, my brain just shut down. I didn't know what to do. I thought I was dying. And then the baby came out. She said that she was perfect. I tried to smack her on the bum. It didn't work, like on television. And I didn't tell anyone because I didn't know what to say. I dumped all the sheets and the towels. But I spent a night in bed beside her, and the next morning I went to bury her. I knew that North Cross Park was locked overnight, but there was a gap in the fence, so I found a spot by some roses, and I knew that I could bury her there without being disturbed.
Would the roses have been in bloom in September, October time?
Yes.
That's all right, is it? Okay.
Yeah, I think so. It depends on that. Look, I've only recently
the magical Manchester rose.
I've only just got into roses in the past couple of years, but I think there are some late blooming ones, but they're not early blooming ones and late blooming ones. I don't think. Anyway,
it's probably just plastic.
I know, I'm trying...
Wouldn't that be a shame after all of this? There's all this sentimentality she's got around a rose bush and it turns out that it's just a little plastic one with fabric leaves.
I'll just have a go at the props department if that was the case. Right, and then she says, I saw the people the other day with the spades and I couldn't bear to see them disturb her tiny bones. And this whole thing, I was trying to get through reading it, but it's really quite emotional just to imagine how this was performed. That visual image was quite a graphic one, but I think a really added to the visceral emotion of that scene, didn't it? Mm. And then Nick says, how did you keep this secret? And she says, well, I was terrified. I had to go. I went to Bolton and I got some antibiotics. So she had some treatment. But she gave a fake name, she said. She came home and she told Les and Jan that she had the flu. And the fact that Janice was secretly seeing Dennis and they had so much going on, they weren't paying attention to her. And she said, I've seen so many doctors and gynecologists over the years, but there's only one I told about this, and they said to me, there's no way that there's any link between your conception issues since. So that makes sense. Like, if very early on in her journey she had said, look, this happened, is this going to affect, is this what's happened, is this why I can't have a baby? And they said no. You wouldn't bother bringing it up again, would you? It's too painful to remember, and you're not going to keep double checking every time.
No.
If the doctor tells you something you want to believe, you're going to believe them because they're the expert. So she said, I just can't stop thinking, even though I was told that this is why I can't have a baby. And it was Phil Simmonds, the father. He'd served 10 years, now he's free. Maybe that is what you were saying earlier about why did they set it during this period? If we know Phil Simmonds is free.
I mean, we are on a bit of a bring back the old characters kick this year in 2024, aren't we? So who knows? Maybe Phil Simmonds is next.
And maybe that will be something that Nick has to protect her from.
Yeah.
And then they have a bodyguard moment. She says, "You got to believe me, I did love that little baby." And Nick's like, "Well, I can see that you do." So
clear in every tear, he said.
Oh, it's horrible. Nick says, "What do you want to do now? I can't keep this a secret from Leanne." And Toyah says, "Well, it's not your story to tell." And then Simon comes in and says, "Oh, there's police all over the park. They found Lauren's body."
Guys, just want to let you know an advert break's about to happen, so I just thought I'd drop in here with a climax cliffhanger.
Simon bursts in and goes, "Where's Connie and Trevor?"
Yeah, apparently nothing. This was a real waste of a cliffhanger, wasn't it? No, they're digging up North Cross Park, and then later it turned out, oh no, they're not.
Well, Toyah's like, "I've got to get over there, Nick, because if this comes out," so they
she heads out.
She thinks, yeah. Nick catches up. Toyah goes to confess, doesn't she, to the police?
Yeah, she does it. Not straight away. He catches her outside the flat because there were also some yellow roses in bloom in the garden opposite the flat as well. So poor old Toyah's had to be looking out of those because presumably these are also in flower all the year round. But Nick catches up with her and says, "Look, don't go and confess." Maybe she did. She's like, "No, I've been keeping it back for all this time. Now is the time."
She's right in that. If she could tell the police before. Like, she could have known they dug the baby up. It might be more sympathetic.
I don't want to be too grisly about it here, but
I think you probably should stop.
What would you find? How much is going to be left? So seriously, would it have decayed? Would there be evidence?
It really depends on what soil type it is, but I don't think it would have done.
I suppose Tony Robinson's digging up bodies from the Roman era, isn't he?
So Toyah's about to confess in the police station, and he says they haven't found anything, and she says, "What if I want them? What if I want them to find her? 23 years later, gosh, can you imagine?" So they get back home, and Toyah hasn't told the police, and Nick says that's probably a good idea. Leanne walks in, and she's like, "What's going on? What are you talking about?" And Nick says nothing, but Toyah says, "No, I need to tell you." So they actually do have this scene where she's obviously been told.
You blow me down with a feather when Leanne found out in the same episode as well. I couldn't help when the synopsis for this episode came in. I didn't read in detail what was going to happen, but I did see that Toyah was going to be confessing to Nick about it, but I did not expect Leanne would know this. I thought it'd be a secret between the two of them, but in a way I think I'm quite glad that she found out, because Jane Danson, she was at her peak on Friday, but she put in a super performance in these final scenes on Wednesday as well, didn't she? Just the love and support that she gave Toyah before deciding on Friday that she couldn't deal with her trauma anymore.
So you've written Leanne's apologetic for how much of a cowboy she's been.
Cowboy.
Sorry, I was rustling sheep while you were going through this, but it's my job. So Toyah says, "Can we go and see her together?" And Leanne says, "Okay." So they go to the grave site, and Leanne's brought a teddy and they put it on the floor, and they just cry.
That was a lovely scene. The two of them, I hate it. Although, the Battersbys bickering can be quite fun sometimes, but I hate it when they go protracted periods at each other's throats or blanking each other or whatever. I love it when they are a united front. They're some of Corrie's best ever siblings, and we never get friendships in the programme anymore. Nobody's friends with anything, so we have to rely on these sibling relationships and, for anything that comes close to this kind of affection. Both absolutely fantastic in that scene. Loved it.
Yeah. Oh, that's making me want to cry.
Don't cry.
Nick comes in and Leanne's got this notebook that she's writing and she hides it. And then she's like, you kept secrets from me. You told me it was nothing.
Leanne was such a cowboy at the end of this episode, wasn't she?
Nick's like, look, let's talk about this. But then Rowan rings. So she says, no, I need to talk to him. And then Nick gives Toyah a hot chocolate, which in soap language means I want to shag you
jump your bones.
When my wife's
Probably
not
not
looking.
the best phrase to use at the time.
She says, sorry about causing trouble between you and Leanne. And she says, look, you did the right thing. I'm proud of you. And she thanks him for helping her to this is what more alarm bells, giving me the courage to let Rose go. No, this story can't just be Wednesday. You've put us through this. No, I want more from this story than just
they breaks up the past
a week
and
worth,
changed it a little bit.
A month's worth of just
see, the thing
panicking
is,
speculation.
Although I really enjoyed the fact that Leanne was let in on this secret because it allowed for those lovely, lovely scenes between the sisters, I do think that this affair is going to happen, and I think that Leanne is going to possibly either tell Rowan just as part of a...
been told already.
Do you think? Yeah. Do you think? Or if she hasn't done it already, she's at least, Leanne's world is going to be completely split in half when she finds out that Toyah and Leanne are having this affair, which again, I can only speculate. Toyah and Nick, having this affair, which I can only speculate on. So is she going to... She's like, if she's not going to do it, she's at least going to threaten to expose Toyah for the baby barrier that she is. This is total blackmail material. But you're right, it might be that Rowan. She's already told Rowan, and Rowan's going to hold this over Toyah. Or yeah,
that's what I think. I think Rowan's going to be like, back off. Toyah's mine. I mean, Leanne's mine. If you meddle in what I'm doing, then I'm going to tell everybody.
Yeah, so it's a shame because I thought the bonding opportunities that this confession had far outweighed the
Michael,
scandalous
you don't understand drama. So Nick and Toyah have a hug and then they pull apart and they're like, oh no.
We mentioned it a few weeks ago, I'm sure, on the podcast, because they've been getting kind of close and they've been sharing looks. They've both mostly been united in ridicule of the Institute, haven't they? But Wednesday wasn't the first time that I thought, this is heading for an affair. This just cemented the obviousness that is where it's going, and that really, really, really gets me mad. So if I'm not going to get mad about the whole retcon side of it, at least I can get mad at something related to this story.
I just had a quick thought about what I was saying before about crimes and things.
What?
Because she specifically told us that she was born at 26 weeks, according to House of Commons Library, babies who are stillborn after 24 weeks of pregnancy or die during infancy must be buried or cremated. So it sounds like it was a bad...
But she was buried. I suppose it has to be registered, you mean? Yeah. Officially.
And until 1992, after 28 weeks. So when was this then?
This is 26 weeks.
No, what date?
2001.
So maybe she's okay then. Until 1992, after 28 weeks. So because it was 26 weeks...
Oh, that's...
You can...
At the end of the day, do you think that eventually everybody's going to know?
I think there might be a police thing. where they have to talk to her about it because
I mean, what we're not going to have happen, sadly, strangely, we just got to deal with it, is Janice or Les coming back on the street to have a storyline. We're not going to have Bruce Jones returning as Les Battersby. Certainly not going to have Vicky Entwistle back because she's already made her feelings on this storyline very clear on Twitter over the last few weeks, hasn't she? So, I don't know. Yeah, I think it's gonna get out there. I don't know what state Toyah is going to be left in after this because, although I mean, her neighbours have forgiven her for the fact that she killed Imran. Although not everybody knows that she did it on purpose.
She hasn't done anything wrong. It's like, again, like I said, it's book. You know how I've got this thing in my bonnet now about like box ticking exercises from the council or whatever. Like this reminds me of what happened with poor Michelle. And like, if Rory had been this age, we would have helped.
Yeah.
But because he's not, then you're on your own basically. And it's the same, you know, with this. So I mean, I think we're getting far more into it than Coronation Street might do. But
well, I even thought
what do you do?
Mentioning Rory, that made me think the other day because he had a rose as well, didn't he? His was a white rose, and it did make me think that if Toyah had chosen, just so happened to have gone to a white rose bush rather than the yellow one. You know, Michelle's not come over to Weatherfield after Ryan's been horrifically scarred by acid, but if she finds out that somebody has stolen Rory's flower, she is getting on that plane and giving him a big old talking to. But yeah, yellow, all okay with her.
On Friday, Toyah wants to go to work and Leanne's not sure that she should do. But Nick goes anyway and Toyah says, are you guys all right? And Leanne's like, oh yeah, we're fine. But Toyah doesn't seem to believe her. And then in the bistro, Nick and Leanne are snapping at each other. And then Rowan walks in and Leanne's so excited and he says, I had to come. I saw how upset you were. Don't let other people tell you how to prioritise your time. You're important, Leanne, more important than you truly understand right now. And so she buggers off.
Leanne knows. She knows she's important. She's known all along.
She buggers off to do some institute stuff, leaving Nick by himself, running around, doing everything. Even though when Toyah's like, oh my God, have you been left on your own? And he's like, yeah, I have been left on my own, apart from 3 servers and a chef. But what do you do, Nick? Anyway.
Who's gonna put the wine out on the tables now?
Who's going to squint at people's choices for their starters and mains?
No, he's got that covered. But what we haven't got now is somebody to fold their arms and look judgmentally at the diners.
They're trying to remember what their PIN code is.
Yeah, I can totally see Leanne.
Have you forgotten?
You can use contactless. You don't need your PIN code for that.
Did you know there's a space for tips? You seem to have not realised. Don't worry, I'll cancel this transaction. We can do it again. So Toyah offers to chip in to help. Then we cut to Leanne and Rowan in the flat and she's struggling to upload.
I wasn't sure what this uploading was going to be because she mentioned it at the beginning of the week that she was due. Then she was supposed to have it on Wednesday, but it had to be postponed till Friday. And it seems to have been just offloading all of your...
Tell me everything.
It was a confession. It was a confession, wasn't it? For lack of a better comparator.
Well, this was the thing that I thought I was frustrated with because I love the cheesy... nonsense that they keep coming out with all the metaphors.
Faux computer jargon.
So Rowan's like, close your eyes and visualise a wood and walk towards a cabin, and inside the cabin are cases and they're all full with different things. You've opened one, what's inside? It should have been, go onto your hard drive and find all the folders and open them. What files can you download?
There must have been a reason because everything so far has been computer speak.
Maybe they wanted to make it sound more credible because it like I said, it's cheesy and it sounds stupid.
The scene was done really, really well, and possibly making it too computery would have taken from that.
It made it sound stupid.
Because it has always been stupid.
But we've always, like, when you imagine what is therapy, more people are going to say... that sounds right. If you say, imagine you're walking through some woods and you get to a cabin, that sounds more like a therapy session than download your mainframe computer and use your virus killing software. You know?
Yeah.
Anyway, so...
But Leanne's mind, after hearing all this computer talk, could have been conditioned to accept that was perfectly
but we
normal
can't.
This
she
stage.
would have done, but we can't. We're not being brainwashed, hopefully.
Yeah. Really, really good scene.
When Rowan was saying... walk through the woods and find yourself at a cabin. I was like, Michael, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't listen to him. We don't want to be brainwashed by Rowan just by watching television. So, these cases, each one contains some horrible memory.
Something that Leanne's done, a little blot in Leanne's past where she's maybe not too proud of something that she's done.
I know what he should have done. He's like, close your eyes, Leanne, imagine opening Firefox, type coronationstreet.fandom.com. In the search bar on that website, put Leanne. Scroll down to storylines and tell me the first thing you read. Oh my God, I used to be a chap.
Yeah, I graffitied that picture of Alma and Better Buys.
I remember Steve. I remember we stole all those tools.
She's got a long list of things to confess, hasn't she? I'm
surprised.
Surely she still had a few cases left in that warehouse.
This cabin, like you said, it wasn't a cabin, it was a warehouse full of cases. So the first one she opens is about Oliver, and she thinks that Oliver...
She's kind of blaming herself, isn't she?
Has to die because of all the bad things that she's done. And Rowan says, no, I'm with you. You've got this. And then the next one we see her discussing is the horrible experiences she had when she was a sex worker, talking about pretending to smile and saying that she liked it, but now she feels dirty, and talking about them being married and how disgusted she is. And she eventually we start to think that I don't think she had enough time for this, but it seems like she's also confessed to setting fire to a restaurant as well. Yeah,
she did. She talked about setting fire to philanderies as well.
I mean, I started listening to our Leanne character profile, and that's like an hour, and that was just us quickly going through it, not us reliving the memories of the first time it happened.
Yeah, so there must have been some things that she's forgotten about as well.
Yeah, definitely. Can you imagine being Rowan and like for the next week she'll be like, oh, it's Leanne again. Hi Leanne, what's that you forgot?
I was a belly dancer at a men's club one time. Does that count?
You had an affair? Yeah, it's all right. We'll talk about it later. So he tells her that she's free. She's been judging herself for years. Now she can be free to judge everyone else. I thought that's what she's been doing this whole time. She says she's unburdened herself. He says she's unburdened herself, and he's created new space for new stations on her journey. Mixing his metaphors again.
Yeah.
She should have said, you've cleared space on your hard drive.
Yeah, you've emptied your recycle bin.
Yeah.
Got more RAM left.
And so she feels very happy, doesn't she, and very light. I want to join this cult.
You can try it.
I need therapy, I tell you. He's been recording this whole thing on his phone.
Yeah, that's the big twist at the end, because she goes to get a drink, doesn't she? And then when she's in the kitchen area, he turns over his phone and he's got recordings there. So people online have also noticed that he's got lots of other recordings that were supposedly done yesterday as well. So we're led to believe that he's been doing upload sessions with quite a few victims, or whatever you want to call them, just yesterday. This must be upload season for Rowan.
Well, no, he just does it all the time to everybody.
Maybe he's got a podcast.
I think that's what he's doing.
Yeah.
He and Amy are muscling in on our territory.
I know.
So
Amy's setup already looked more professional than ours. She had headphones on her head. We don't have that.
No, we don't. It's because we couldn't hear the door.
She's probably got a mixer as well.
What does that mean? Right, so she's happy. Oh, the other thing we saw somebody mention online about this thing that when you record on your phone, it will tell you where you are. It saves the file names, usually where you're located. So his says home, and somebody said, oh, I think that means that he wasn't in America like he said he was. But I think maybe if he lives in America, it would say home.
I did wonder, though, throughout the week, when he was doing that, because one of the Zoom sessions must have been on Monday, it was all kind of glitchy and blippy, wasn't it? And I was wondering whether...
Well, America's very far.
I was wondering whether he'd put that on there to make it look like he was farther away, and that Leanne would buy that. A little bit when John Lindsay, when he used to phone up Deirdre and pretend that he was in Timbuktu, and then he'd leave these big pauses before responding to her. I don't necessarily believe he was in America. It wouldn't surprise me if he's got a little den, a little church just round the corner.
The only way that would make sense, though, is if he's not as well off as he thinks he is, as he's saying he is. Because
He's certainly good at fleecing people for their money, so I don't know what he's done with it apart from using it on hair products to make himself gorgeous.
Beautiful. So when he's saying, oh, jet setting, international, it kind of makes you sound more successful. So maybe he would pretend I'm in America at the moment because I'm so successful.
Yeah, exactly.
But maybe he just lives in a tent.
He could well do. There's clearly an awful lot more of this Rowan storyline to come. I'm still absolutely loving it. But God, there was one more sting in the tail, wasn't there?
Well, hang on. I just want to say to all of our listeners who live in tents, good for you.
Good for you.
Leanne goes to the
Save on those
bistro
bills.
and tells, I'd love to live in a tent. I love those. I watch all these YouTube channels about people that live in tents. It's my favourite thing at the moment. Leanne goes to the bistro, tells Nick how much better she feels for no more negativity in her life. Then Leanne...
That's like Roy deciding no more nerdiness in my life. Or
no more getting arrested for crimes I didn't commit.
But Jenny, no more booze in my life.
Nick, no more affairs. I'm just going to stay with one woman. Leanne and Toyah get talking later, and Toya's like, "Thank you so much for
yesterday
for helping me," and she starts talking a bit more about going to the park. She said, earlier I went back to the park, and Leanne's like, "Can I just stop you there?"
Ultimate bitch move at the moment.
She says, Toyah, I can't absorb your trauma. I can't absorb your trauma at the moment. I'm sorry. That was like, oh, Leanne!
Burn!
That was just so funny. And then she just kind of like, bye, bitch. And Toyah sat there like, I'm going to shag your husband. I cannot believe you treated me like this.
That
was just the best.
It wasn't a bitch moment. She did not do it to insult Toyah in any way, did she? She was thinking about...
tone deaf to say that.
I don't think she was. I think that she's been brainwashed by Rowan so much that she thought that this was a perfectly natural thing to say. It made total sense to her.
Of course, but
and of course everyone else understands. I can't absorb your negativity. I'm on a positive fix at the kick at the moment.
There's certainly people that need to hear this from friends and relatives. There are certainly people that I've wished I could say this to. At a certain point, there's only so much you can hear from somebody, and sometimes also you're not in a really good place. Like I really can't hear you talk to me about, like, the same thing with Corrie. Like, I couldn't watch Sinead's story. I couldn't absorb her trauma. I was not in the right place for it. So I understand that, but just watching it on screen, it was just like, I thought that was brilliant.
I thought when we posted...
And she said it so smugly as well, didn't she?
Yeah, I posted on Facebook today to say that, sorry, the episode's going to be a little bit late. Gemma and I were both feeling a bit poorly last night, and then somebody replied to that they can't absorb my trauma.
That was great. Brilliant. That made me laugh.
So funny. Is there anything left of this that we haven't covered or discussed? I'm just having a quick look at my notes. I think we seem to have done everything. The affair. The thing is, if this isn't going to turn into affair, I'm still not sure where it is going to go. Like, is it Toyah's going to go to prison? Would that happen? I don't know. I don't know what would happen to her if the police found out about it. About the baby burial.
I was just looking up who said it. It was Caroline Bennett who said that. You made us laugh. Thank you. That was hilarious. I think this might be something that gets saved for some later. It might be one of these things they keep in their back pocket.
Yeah, I mean, now the body's there, it kind of has to be dug up at some point, doesn't it?
That's really macabre.
It's really macabre, and that's what everyone's saying. Oh, Corrie's gone too far, it's too dark. It's so hilarious how...
Hang on.
How'd
you go from...
No, I think it's funny that Kate Oates' successor is just being told too dark. I can't believe you're always so dark, when Ian McLeod was brought in to try and lighten the dark tone that
he said he would bring back classic Corrie comedy.
He did say that, didn't he?
He said funny at all.
He said many things on the Digital Spy Soap forums this week. Some people posted an old interview of his that he put online when he first came into the job, and he said, "Oh, I'm not going to have any funny flashbacks or
weird
character
experimental
first person experimental film." Lies. Anyway, great stuff. I think you do want to say one more.
What do I say?
Oh, your other problem, I just remember from the note I've got here. £4.50 for a rose, Gemma.
Ridiculous.
Although
£4.50 for a rose in Weatherfield.
Well, it is out of season.
That's true. These weren't grown in Medfield, and she's like, oh yeah.
I thought, and
imagine the irony if she'd gone in to get £4.50 for a rose, gone to the bush, and it'd just been stripped, and she's the reason why. Because she's fueling demand for yellow roses in April.
I did, I like to rag on Mary at any opportunity and say just how unfunny that she is, but this was my favourite Mary moment for many a year when Toyah's in the shop looking at the roses and Mary's taking a note to put on somebody's flowers, and it starts off all innocent. I can't remember what exactly she said, but it just gets into this really raunchy note, and Mary's like, oh, how romantic. I appreciated that. Thank you to, I can't remember whoever it was that wrote that part of Monday's episode.
Yes, so this was a very, very sad story, and I know that some viewers have shared their experiences of things that have happened that are similar to Coronation Street, and I know that there are people who are listening who've experienced baby loss and stillbirths and miscarriages, and I'm really, just awful to share these things on screen sometimes, and I hope that everyone's okay.
Yeah.
Watching it, because I think it can be really emotional to see. Sometimes it really helps, but I think there's a danger that if you feel like a story is sensational,
if it's sensationalising some horrible thing that's happened in your past,
you feel like you're being exploited, or like your experience is not being taken seriously and used for entertainment value. So I really hope that everyone is okay, and I think that Toyah's story, so far, the stuff that Georgia Taylor's done has been really well done. I think I'm not totally sold on why it happened at all, but
yeah. And I want to say I don't want to. I'm not saying to everybody, oh, you should like this story or you should stop moaning about the story.
Oh, no, carry on.
You are very free to do that. But I'm not just being contrary about this. I am absolutely fine with this story. I need some kind of therapy to figure out exactly why I'm fine with it. I think the main reason is just I'm really glad that it's given Georgia something to do after a long time with a lot of downtime on screen, and however much of a bastardized version of the old classic Corrie this has now thrown up, I do like a bit of a reference to the past, and when Toyah mentioned Dennis Stringer the other day, it's like, oh, shout out to Dennis. But I will, if this does turn into an affair, I will be absolutely joining you lot with placards outside the ITV studio saying, stop this filth.
And another final bit is that I said this when the Guardian piece came out, which I believe also spoiled the story for some people. But
no, it didn't. It was the
it was the feedback.
It was the follow up.
Okay. Yeah. But the fact that everyone's mad about this and talking about it is kind of good for Corrie, because it shows that people care about the show. Imagine if they did this story and just nobody said anything.
But people care about the past of the show, and I think what they're saying now is not only is Ian McLeod and whoever else, because I don't want to just dump it on him. I don't know. Not only is he ruining Corrie in the present, he's now taken his hatchet to the past as well. And
yeah, but you're misunderstanding what I'm saying. They are saying it's the last straw, but people care about the show still. That's what I'm trying to get to.
Oh, I know.
That's what I'm trying to say. Everyone who's complaining is doing it because they want Coronation Street to be good, and they want the show. They want to enjoy the show.
Yeah.
And I think that not everyone who complained probably hated it as much as they thought they would, but the continual discussion of Corrie. I think the thing is, lots of people when something like this happens, they think it's the end of the show. It's the end of the show. This can't carry on like this. Everyone's going to stop watching it. I don't think that's true because of how much discussion this generated, and I really think that this came at a time when there's positive news on the horizon in that we have a new producer, and what the new producer needs to come in, Kate Brooks, and say like, I won't be doing that again.
One of the silliest things, I'm sorry to the people who said this, one of the things that made me go, was a comment that I read online from someone saying, oh, well, this is clearly the new producer's handiwork. Kate Brooks has started and already she's ruined Coronation Street. This is in no way. This has nothing to do with Kate Brooks. I don't even know whether Kate Brooks has started yet.
Couldn't have done anything to do with this.
No, it could very well have been Ian McLeod saying, well, I'm just going to set this one up. It's up to you where it goes. But Kate Brooks is not going to be having much control over what happens in storyline wise until, you know, it might even be late 2024 if not 2025.
Yeah,
so
I believe so.
If you want to blame any producer, there's definitely
this is Ian McLeod's work.
Yeah.
Why have we got these quotes? Who can be sad when there's a banana about?
You asked me to write that down.
Who said that? Nick?
Yeah.
What? He's got no idea what's happening in the world.
At least it wasn't a banana tree that she buried the baby under. That would have been the ultimate suspension of disbelief.
What's this say? You've had enough going on with the police without facing the wrath of Leanne.
Yeah.
Who said
also,
that?
probably Nick that said that. I don't know.
Who to?
I don't know.
Right, now we're done with that. Okay? Is everyone all right? We all okay, I think?
Let's talk about a story that nobody has any kind of no controversial around this at all. Roy in prison, Roy manned. Oh my gosh, there's another stupid projection scene this week, wasn't there? What the hell are they doing?
I have seen lots of funny comments about it though. I think that makes it worth it for me. People talking about like the new witness is the prison guard who saw Roy projecting an image of a dead girl on his cell.
So Roy doesn't need an Apple Vision Pro either, does he?
No.
He just can project whatever. Do you think he gets a nice blank wall and then projects movies?
Well, isn't it ironic that one of the first films ever made that scared people in the cinema was that one of a train coming towards him?
Oh yeah.
Maybe he would. Maybe he watches that sometimes.
I would like to know. Like, I get the idea behind it. But does any body quality control the scenes where Roy's having his little crazy sessions in the prison?
What do you mean?
And go, no, that looks a bit crap.
I like it. I know everyone hates it. I don't mind it. Yeah, I think it's quite fun.
It's dreadful. It's absolutely awful. And oh my gosh, I can't believe you said you liked it. And then it also has moments where it's like got Roy looking into the camera, and David Nielsen, obviously one of the best actors on the show, he then has to like look into the camera going, ooh, and it's just. They're terrible, absolutely dreadful, okay. And I don't think we've seen the last of them either. But God, Bennett. Okay, so Monday then it's everything with missing Freddie really. So for Evelyn and Alia and Nina are all there. They're wondering what's going on with Freddie. But then they get a message on their phone saying that somebody's got him held hostage. He's been dognapped, and unless Roy confesses, they're keeping him. So some evil TikTokers have got Freddie locked up.
Again, Coronation Street chickens out at the last minute. You're not supposed to just kidnap a dog and go, oh, if you don't do what I say, I'm just going to keep him and feed him and love him forever. You say, I'm going to chop his head off and send you the whiskers.
Anyway, later on, Nina's telling Evelyn that the police aren't doing anything useful with this video. Then Bethany and Daniel come in, and Evelyn makes heavy insinuations that maybe now it's his time to confess because they're still doing this thing that we said last week. Like, if it wasn't Roy, then it was Daniel. If it wasn't Daniel, then it was Roy.
Daniel says, I haven't projected Lauren's face onto a wall, so it can't have been
Can't be me. I've not got no guilty conscience. So Nina's later saying, look, should we tell Roy about Freddie? And Evelyn says, no, let's keep it quiet for the time being because it might make him a bit sad. Last time, it reminds me a bit of when Ken was in Stillwaters and poor Eccles was sick. And should they tell him or not?
Should we?
Anyway, at the end of the episode, we see Asha take the initiative, use it in inverted commas, to DM the evil dog nappers to say, I've got information about Roy that you might find interesting, actually.
Now, Asha, you've got to pull your finger out, love, because we just did a character profile on you. And the way you're going at the moment, it's going to be about 20 years before we do another one. If this is the highlight of your year, Asha confronts Dog Napper.
Yeah, that was kind of the main highlight for her on Wednesday, wasn't it? It's Nina's birthday. They have to give it a cursory mention, I suppose. Roy rings Nina up to say happy birthday, and Roy says, look, happy birthday and everything, but I'm really focused on my bail hearing that's tomorrow. Nina's like, I'm sure it's going to be okay, but before the conversation can go much further, Roy puts the receiver down because he's thinking about higher
which cardigan
things.
he's going to wear.
Yeah. Asha is in the precinct later, so she's made the decision to meet up with these evil dog nappers. They did have some online TikTokery names, but I can't remember what they were. And she, of course, it's the precinct. Where else would it be? North Cross Park? I don't know. But they said that look, she says to them, I've got some info about Roy. You might be interested in it. Then we don't get to hear anything about what that is because Nina's in the cafe later. Asha comes in carrying Freddie and it's like, hooray, I've got the dog back. There was a few too many things that happened off screen in this week's episode that I would have liked to have seen. Like this bit where Freddie got loose to begin with. We just had to hear about it from Sam. Asha triumphantly sending in the cops to arrest these dog nappers. Didn't see any of it. There's not even any reason for that. That's a shame. But anyway, Freddie's back. Nothing to worry about now. So that was a bit of a storm in a teacup, wasn't it? Was it only necessary because it helped the Toyah baby digging up thing?
I don't know the point. I think it's a bit silly.
I think that Toyah could have still had this revelation about her baby had she just been walking in the park herself.
No, I don't agree with that because I think to justify her confession now and not any of the other points that it would have made more sense had to be because she was scared that it was going to be revealed.
It's a shame that it wasn't built up a bit more.
But again, you could have written the same story because we already had them going to the Bat Place and digging around there. It could have just been a rumour that got spread online that it was North Cross Park because things like that happen all the time.
I just think that the fact that they happened to be digging up in the exact spot where the baby was buried, it was too convenient for me. If like the whole of the Roy vilification front had said, right, we're going to comb every park in Weatherfield, we're going to be digging all over the place. Today we're digging at North Cross Park. That would have made more sense to me.
Yeah.
Because they've been certainly a lot of them and they're trying whatever they can to find evidence against Roy. It just seemed to have come out of nowhere that we happen to be digging in this spot today. I think that if they'd been in previous episodes, they'd been touring the other parks and then Toyah had heard today they're going to North Cross, that would have been
enough.
It would have made more sense and been less contrived than Freddie going missing.
This is the trouble about the current Corrie and all these bombastic things that happen because remember Evelyn was like kidnapped earlier in the year or like held hostage. Like, do you remember that? Or have you forgotten because it was silly and it had no consequence? Are we going to remember that Freddie was dognapped? If Freddie was dognapped and it was the main story and nothing else stupid happened, we would believe it. But I think Corrie really tries to force reactions and up the ante too much. Like watching I know this is boring, but watching old Corrie, to keep going on about it, they would just have conversations and that would be dramatic enough. Nothing had to happen and I don't think that the actors now are any less talented than they were in the day, and I don't think the writers are any less talented. I think there's loads of really great, talented, passionate, wonderful people on Coronation Street who could write compelling and perform compelling scenes that don't involve ridiculous stunts happening.
I thought it was quite ironic though that Evelyn was getting her knickers in a twist about her dog being napped when she herself was a dog napper not 3 months ago.
Yeah,
but she was doing it for its safety and
the fact that happened as well and we've forgotten about that.
Anyway, over at the prison, Roy's still off his food. He says, my psychological concerns are currently overriding my physiological ones. And the guard is nice, isn't he? I think it was Friday where he says that when you get out of here, leave me a good review on makeaprisonguard.com.
It's because he's on remand, so it's like, you're not a criminal. But even if you are a criminal...
Probably not all prison guards are nasty, and it makes a refreshing change that he's got a nice one.
But when we went to Shrewsbury Prison, which they filmed some scenes, Coronation Street, like most notably the prison riot that David was in, we had a tour with one of the people that was a prison guard, and he just seemed to say, like, I treat you well and respect you because I want you to respect me, and it works both ways.
When you're good to mama, mama's good to you.
We all know. So I think that he would be decent, wouldn't he? But especially so to somebody who's not actually been found guilty of a crime yet.
Yeah. Anyway, this is when we have the ridiculous projection. So Roy goes over to the wall and like Lauren is projected onto the wall, a massive Lauren head, and then in the mirror, the image of Max comes, and you can see Max inside Roy's pupils as well. And what are we taking away from that? Are we supposed to believe that Roy is convinced that Max is responsible for Lauren's disappearance?
This is just a symptom of the fact that you can't read soap characters' thoughts. And this is why you need a sidekick or a confidant, especially for villains. But in this situation too, it's difficult because because Roy's not talking to anybody. So you can't have a way of hearing what he's thinking without some weird... This is why visions and dream sequences sometimes work in Coronation Street, even if you don't necessarily like them. Because how else would we know unless he said?
Can you add a little bat friend, maybe fly in through the cell window and roost up in the corner?
What if he just imagined Hayley?
Oh yeah.
They could get they could get Julie Hesmondhalgh back.
They could. It'd be like when Princess Di came back in the last series of The Crown after the accident.
Right, okay, so here's the challenge to people that don't like experimental stuff in Coronation Street, and I don't know what I would think about this, but how would you all feel if instead of having projector scenes where he's like, Lauren, Max, imagine if Hayley was just in the room, like, sitting there going, Roy, what have you done?
Well, if anybody could have written Hayley into a scene, it's Ian Kershaw on Friday. He's like, come on, dear.
I would have thought you were going to say, if anyone could
Stick
do
your wig
it,
in for me.
Julie Hesmondhalgh could, because I agree with you there, because I think she could do a really good job of it. How wonderful would that be?
I would very much love that.
But
it's
would
not
it
going
be
to happen,
would it
is
be
it?
good? I think it could be quite good, but they've chosen to go with the projection idea instead when they could have had.
Silly. Anyway, so meanwhile, Asha's talking to the cafe
Hang on.
lot.
You asked me did I think that Roy thinks that
Yes, I
it
did.
was Max. What do you think?
I don't know why he would think it's Max, but it seems like
That's
he
how
is
you
thinking
interpreted
that.
it. That's how you interpreted his vision. Okay.
So Bobby thinks it's Daniel. Daniel thinks it's Roy. Roy thinks it's Max. They're all standing around pointing fingers at each other.
It's the Weatherfield standoff.
It is, but in the end, it's not going to be any of them, is it?
No.
It's going to be Nathan or Joel or maybe even Rowan at the moment, because Lauren could have got caught by the institute, couldn't she?
She had enough money for a download or an upload. But
this is true.
They also would have found evidence because they're investigating. If there was any contact between Rowan and Lauren, they would have found out by now. Because she wouldn't have been hiding it, would she?
No. Also, Leanne hasn't been offered a lovely necklace yet.
Oh, true. I think it's Nathan and Joel together.
So I'm going towards that. So do you think that Roy thinks it's Max? You avoided my question.
If he had vision, I don't know why else that would have happened.
Anyway, back at the cafe, Asha's telling everyone about how she managed to trick these guys into meeting with her.
She's like, you should have seen it.
Swept
It was
in
cool.
and nabbed them.
It was a great scene.
Really, really good scene.
But they didn't have the cameras.
Didn't have the budget to film that, unfortunately. The SWAT team leaping in from the roof of the precinct and
Like
bursting
swinging
out
down
of
from
Sweet
balconies.
Enough and
with an ice cream, licks it and goes, "You're
jumping
licked."
out of the bins.
Yeah, dog's there crapping itself.
Oh, honestly, it was awesome, guys. Wish you could have been there. But anyway, I got the dog back, and
why did they bring
off she
the
goes.
dog, or did they go and get the dog later?
Well, no, they went and got. Well, I think that they
police
were
just found
arrested. I don't think it matters at the end of the day, because a lot of this was also to try and facilitate Asha and Nina getting back together, and I don't particularly mind whether they do or not. I mean, I wish I was more invested in their relationship than I actually am, but it was quite sweet when they went up to the flat later and Asha gives her this gothy necklace for her birthday, and Nina's like, "Oh, I love it." And Asha says, "I love you and I will always love you, but we're not meant for each other." "Oh, not like this, not like that. I know it hurts, but I think it hurts because it's true, and I'm sorry if I've led you on. I'm sorry." So basically, she gives her a necklace. Nina reckons she's on a promise, and then Asha's like, "Nah."
Asha says,
"I'm off."
Asha says, "Nina, I've heard there's some confusion amongst the audience as to where we stand together as lovers or friends. So officially, I'm unloving you on Facebook." Friend space.
So I did feel bad
Friend
for
pics.
Nina at the end there, but does this mean that they're not going to be tonsil tennising in the next week?
Get
No,
dumped
not
on your
necessarily.
birthday?
It just was, tragic soap birthday dumping, but I don't think it means anything. It's just a little reminder of their relationship status. So Friday then, bail hearing for Roy. This new evidence about, Bobby's fake confession has come to light. And now can we use this to get Roy out of prison? So Abby and Alex are there as well in the cafe. Alex's second appearance in a month. Go on, Bennett. And Bernie says, look, if Bobby's made this...
Well, hang on. Everyone's like, good luck, it'll be fine. And Bernie says, I don't think this is going to work out because... she also...
Well, she says that Bobby should have made his statement weeks ago because if he had, then Roy possibly wouldn't have been inside.
So she's like, now. I'm not happy with Bobby. Like everyone else is like, great, well done, Bobby, but I'm not going to say that.
Yeah, so Roy's in the courthouse. Love that courthouse because they showed them walking down past the cells, then up the steps. Brilliant. And Bobby, Carla, and Nina there in the crowd. Dee Dee's there to tell the magistrate, judge, whatever it was, sorry I never remember, about Bobby's statement. And Bobby and Carla are both looking mega awkward during this because, of course, they know it's all a load of baloney.
I hope the judge wasn't looking.
Well, the judge didn't buy this, did she? At all. Dee Dee says, well, but Mr. whatever Bobby's surname is, statement cast doubt on the Crown's case. And we're applying for bail. But with a tag. He can have a tag around. He never goes out anyway. Mr. Cropper is willing to go along with all bail conditions. Plus, I can vouch for his good character as well. So surely that's got to count for something, right? And the magistrate / judge is like, nah. I'm not actually convinced of Bobby's statements because he is a friend, isn't he? And he did just happen to remember this recently, so that sounds a little bit dodgy.
And again, she raised the point I've been making that despite all of that, despite whether or not he did it or not, because we don't know yet, that's the whole point of having a trial, he still whacked somebody and grabbed a phone off of them and pushed someone, we've said what he's done.
She said that if she releases Roy now, she thinks there's a high probability that he's going to be violent with somebody.
Yeah.
I don't think that you would believe that. I really don't.
He grabbed someone's phone. Michael, you're not allowed to do that. If I go if I went up to a strange person who for some reason I've decided I'm going to confront and film them, if I went up to them and they grabbed my phone and then I fell on the floor, would you be like, oh, never mind. And then, that's quite serious because he's a convicted murderer. Oh, he didn't mean any. You would be a bit mad, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I guess. But I
said convicted murderer, I didn't mean that. But he's been accused, a suspected murderer who grabs a phone off somebody and knocks them on the floor. Mm. He knew that he wasn't supposed to do that anyway. We all know that you're not allowed to do that, don't we? I hope that we do. I hope we all know that that's not allowed. But the fact that he knew that and he also knew that he was being scrutinised because he's accused of murder, such a bad move. Well, I don't care how much I like him. I think I'm fair to
I think it's more interesting that he's in prison anyway.
Yeah.
Get to see more of those stupid protection scenes. So maybe that's what the magistrate's like. Maybe they have a sneak in and look through through his bars. It's like movie night.
The magistrate's like, I like this effect. I like this projection thing. So you
can save on lighting in the prison. Just get Roy to do it.
I'm going to keep him in. Also,
anyway,
we're saving so much money on food.
Dee Dee goes to see Roy in his cell, and she tries to G him up, but he is not in a state to be G'd up. So Team Roy gather together in the pub, and Nina by this point is totally losing hope. And Carla says, "Look, we just got to stay positive."
She's getting rapidly more drunk as well.
She is. Nina, yeah. Mm-hmm. So Dee Dee comes in and says, "Look, I've just been to see Roy. He's proper down. He's lost in thought. I don't know what he's thinking about, but it's got to be pretty serious." But then Roy calls Carla on his mobile. He says, on her mobile, "Can you come and see me as soon as possible? I need to ask you something about Bobby's statement."
Oh.
And Bobby's like, he knows, doesn't he? Because when the judge said Mr. What's-his-face's Mr. Bobby's statements just seemed to be very convenient and came out of nowhere, Roy, obviously, as you would, latched onto that, and now he's got this little niggle inside his head of, did he make this whole thing up to try and get me off? So Bobby tries to grab Carla before she goes and says, "Don't rat me out. Please don't tell everybody about it. Don't tell Roy. He'll tell everybody. You know what he's like."
But it's not that he'll tell everybody. It's that he'll tell the police.
Yeah, and I think it was around about now that we saw drunk Nina having a go at Daniel. I didn't particularly enjoy that. But I did enjoy this scene at the prison later where Roy is saying, I've been trying again and again to think back and find clues about Lauren's disappearance, and I need to know the truth about what happened here. And then when I heard that some evidence had come to light, I actually had my hopes raised. But did Bobby make this up? He was looking proper shifty this morning. I quote Roy exactly here. He said, did he make a false statement to the police? And Carla's first attempt to protect Bobby is to say, look, it was me, it was my idea. And Roy's like, no,
that makes no sense.
You wouldn't do that. And so before long, she's worn down and says, yeah, it was Bobby. And Roy's like, this has just made things worse. Now the police are on the trail of a made-up suspect. They're not looking for who actually did it. They're following nobody. Well done. Can't believe I've been made an accessory to this as well, because now I'm going to have to say something or keep quiet, which doesn't sit right with me. What am I supposed to do now? And he stands up and goes back to his cell. So Carla is left thoroughly burned there. And so she should, because if you remember last week's podcast, I was a little bit down on her for going along with this.
I think instead of making that big speech, he just should have done this.
And slow claps, Carla, and then gone. So meanwhile, Dee Dee is confessing to Alia that she's doubting her lawyerly abilities. She says, I wasn't even able to get Roy bailed. Maybe he should have different representation. And Alia gives her a bit of a pep talk, and that seems to do the trick. Carla gets back home, has a massive and well-deserved go at Bobby. She's like, Roy knows everything now. You have massively messed up here, Bobby. Roy's not going to be able to keep this to himself, is he? Final scene of the week. Roy gets another last scene of the week, just like last week. He gets up from his bed, goes to his phone, and he calls DS Swain.
He does a slow clap.
You thought that he was maybe sleepwalking when he got up, didn't you? You
did.
Were saying he looked very zoned out,
he
does like when he does sleepwalk. So maybe that's. Do you think that he is actually going to have told Swain when we come into Monday's episode?
I'm still holding out that he's sleepwalking.
I think that it might. Yeah, I think it might be that. I don't think. I can't see this storyline progressing down the route that Bobby and Carla get in massive trouble for lying to the police.
I think Swain might just have to, for plot purposes, go, oh, Bobby, was it one of your jokes? I'll have to let you get away with it, because I don't want this to be derailed.
No.
Now we've definitely seen Roy do this. The two options are, well, there's three options. It was him sleepwalking, it's a fake out and he's just saying something else to her, or he does tell her that Bobby did this. Yeah. Now, to me, the most likely thing for Roy to do is to tell DS Swain that Bobby has lied, because his only real chance is for them to find who did it, and it wasn't him. So if they're not looking for somebody who's real, there's less chance they're going to find the real culprit. So Bobby's only stitched him up. Mm. And if Roy really wants to get out, if I was trying to decide, am I going to protect this new character that everyone hates and go down for a murder I didn't commit, or am I going to tell somebody that he's done this? I would always pick to tell somebody. And also, that's even before you consider the fact that Roy is very, straight and narrow.
Yeah, he's black and white, he sees things. Mm. Maybe he's just phoned her up for a crank call.
He's like, what colour are your pants? Bye. She's like, is that prison again? I'm going to have to get...
I knew I shouldn't have put a direct line to the cells to my phone. It's Friday night, come on.
Oh,
anyway.
You always get drunk and foamy on Friday night.
I was less down on this story this week than I was last week. It's still not gripping me as much as it was. We really, really, really need to find out where Lauren is soon. But it still doesn't feel like they're in any rush to tell us. Britain's Got Talent has now started, I'm going to say. So that means the warm-up to Britain's Got Talent week has started. I'm wondering whether Lauren's reappearance is going to be saved until then, which is going to be in, 4 or 5 weeks' time?
That sounds about right.
That sounds about right.
Is she alive? I think she is.
Of course she is. I've got not one slither of thought that she is actually dead. She is 100% alive.
How would you feel if they brought her back and killed her on screen?
Great.
Oh, nice.
Would love that. Or if they bring back and Roy kills her on screen.
Yeah, that'd be fun, wouldn't it?
Everyone thinks I did it, so I just might as well do it.
Might as well do it then. I'm just thinking into the future, into the distant future, like say 10 years from now.
Is Corrie still on?
Corrie's still on. We're loving it. Everyone's enjoying it. It's a new producer. It's me. No, we're saying like, oh, we're just doing a character profile of Lauren. Now, do you remember 10 years ago the very controversial story where Roy was suspected of killing Lauren? It turned out she was fine, and she's been in the show ever since. We all love her. She's our favourite character.
What
Isn't
a
that
turnaround
fun?
that story was. Yeah.
That was really the making
Could be
of
the
her.
making of her, exactly. Yeah, so possibly Britain's Got Talent Week, the reveal. And I still don't know what they're doing with this Paul story, but may well be that it's a double whammy with him dying then. But if they do, I hope they start to show a bit more of him, because we have not seen enough of him. Although he does make an appearance in the Amy story, doesn't he, towards the end. So AMY Radio, over to you, Gemma.
If anyone's going to get him on their show, it should be us.
Who?
Paul.
Oh, I'm going to ask Peter Ash to come on for an interview. I don't know whether he'll say yes, but I'm going to ask.
On Monday, Amy's getting bored with her life. She's only young, imagine how much more time she's got to be bored ahead of her. And Asha says, you should do the student radio job. It would be great. And she's like, interesting.
I'm opinionated.
I like talking. Amy's in the shop with Archie later, and he's encouraging her to go for the radio thing and says, oh, you should do interviews. People would really open up to you. You're one of my best mates. And you're one of mine. Yeah,
so this is the story which is returning to the well of will Archie and Amy hook up again.
Is that like going to be their shipping name, Army?
Yeah. And the adjective to describe them is Amish.
Then they can have the army. Amy comes and finds Archie later and says, I'm gonna do an interview with a charity lady. It's going to be my audition. And there's a bit of a spark, but she rushes off to see Ken. Tell you what, she should interview Ken before he dies about his life.
Yeah.
Amy's struggling with the audio software later, and Ken's like, oh, impressive. And
didn't he say that he was involved in a bit of pirate radio when he was younger? I don't remember that happening. Is that a retcon?
Well, I'm surprised Steve hadn't turned up to say, I used to do radio.
Well, yeah, exactly. Her dad definitely did do a Radio Weatherfield 30 years ago.
He's like, Amy, not only did I used to do a radio show, but it's not even a BS story plotline about my past that didn't happen.
It actually happened. It's me, Andy and Vicky. We did it.
So she tells Ken that she likes Archie, and he's like, oh, seems to be a pretty decent chap, all things considered.
Yeah.
What does he mean by that?
Whatever.
Maybe, is he being a bit racist? I don't know. What's he talking about?
Bit dim, I don't know.
Yeah. On Wednesday, Amy is hitting walls with her interview subjects. And then, because this charity lady she wanted to do, can't do it. Who can she interview now? What about Archie?
People who live on the street, of course.
So Archie tells Alia about this interviewee, and
oh yeah, this kind of goes into the Joel story as well a little bit.
Can you just read this bit out? I don't know what
I wasn't particularly interested in this. So Archie tells Alia, who comes into the story for a little bit, or maybe it's the other story, I don't know,
I think
about
Alia
this interviewee who's pulled out, and she runs a domestic violence sanctuary which is currently trying to help a woman who's about to lose her home, but they can't afford a solicitor, so he says to her, can Barlow's solicitors maybe step in and help this poor woman? And Alia says, Sars, I don't work there anymore. But just in time, Joel comes in and Archie says, look, could Dee Dee help out with a bit of solicitoring? And he's like, no, she's snowed under with Roy's bail application. And Archie says, Joel, maybe you could help. I don't know whether he's being a bit reluctant when he says, well, okay, just call me. Maybe I'll say okay. Because at the end of the episode, spoiler alert, he does say that he will. But this is another little mini clue that maybe Joel is somewhat dodgy.
Explain yourself, because I think the same thing, but what you just said doesn't track.
What do you mean?
A man who's willing to help a woman who needs legal support because...
Well, I think he's going along with it because he needs to keep up his front.
No, I think he's doing it because this is how he preys on vulnerable women.
Oh.
I think he uses his solicitor job and he finds people that are vulnerable and he gets them into a situation where he either tricks them into thinking that he's helping them when he's not, or he perhaps will say something like, oh, wow, look at all this work I've done. If you were to pay me for this, how much do you think it would cost you? Well, can you think of another way that you could pay me?
Oh, do you reckon? Maybe.
Makes sense.
Maybe.
Makes sense. You know, why else would a man ever help a woman do anything? So, Amy interviews Archie, and it's all about how good a man he is and how great
He's trying his best, isn't he?
How great he is at being. I hated this line as well. So she's talking about misogyny, calling it out, and he's like saying you want to be one of the lads. There's a lot of learning and unlearning men need to do. Culture is steeped in sexism. I'm trying to do my bit, reading, learning, and then he says it's not about being an ally. It's about being an accomplice.
Why did you hate that?
Because it sounds so cheesy and stupid. It makes it sound like you're like, I'm not your ally. I'm the accomplice of the person who's persecuting you. That's what you've all been. You've all been accomplices. That's the whole point. That's what the patriarchy is. You're just a bunch of accomplices.
Accomplice, I think, is supposed to give the idea that you're doing something, whereas ally just says, "Oh, I agree with you."
But this is
in principle.
But this is like the nutshell of how progressives get themselves caught up in this cycle of trying to one-up each other and trying to like virtue signal. That's like the almost awful example of a virtue signal I've ever. Like, I'm not just an ally. I'm not just an ally. No.
I do something about it.
I'm an accomplice. Look at me. I'm involved. No, shut up. It's not about you anyway.
Well, it turns out
obnoxious.
that the interview just seems to be a secret cover for him confessing his role in taking down Aaron to her.
Archie says being an accomplice is about calling people out. Like when my friend, wink, was raped by someone else, wink, wink. This friend, we'll call him Aaron. I tried to talk to him about what rape was and why it's wrong. And I think what he did was wrong and that I couldn't be friends with him. And my female friend, we'll call her Amy, doesn't know that this happened. And Amy's like, interesting. Who could they be? Who is you're talking about? At this point, though, I'd say, thanks, Archie. Of course, I can't release this now because it's obvious you're talking about me. Anyway, they go to the pub later and Archie's like, I was an accomplice. And they're just about, if for some reason she finds this attractive, and she's about to confess her feelings when Asha comes in and tells them about the dog snatchers and kind of
getting the dog back.
Cock blocks Archie with a dog. Joel comes for the pub later and says, I didn't tell Didi about this lady. Well, she's got so much to do, so I'll do it. And Archie's like, oh, more accomplishing, hooray. On Friday, Amy comes into the cafe looking desperate and she's like, I need a new interview guest. You know how that feels?
Many does she? I know exactly how this feels.
I need somebody.
Don't worry, Amy, you're doing great. You managed to you had one person say yes, one person actually do one. You've had another one agree by Friday. 3 people saying yes to interviews in a week for a brand new show. That's
pretty
nothing
good
to get down about. Interviews,
you still don't even have a name for it.
I tried to do my best with them. But they're not always easy to get hold of.
There's only a certain number of people that are in Coronation Street, for a start.
Oh, exactly.
She's got the whole world she can talk to. So Benny goes to Paul's flat. Paul and Hannah, his PA, are there.
I think it's Hannah. I wrote down Hannah. Does that sound right?
I think it's the name.
I think it's Hannah.
And Benny says, Paul's telling a story to Hannah, who seems to be quite enthralled. And Bernie's like, you're great at telling stories. You should go on this radio. And he's not really sure that anyone would be interested. But then later on, when Bernie kind of tricks a meeting, she doesn't tell Paul. And she pretends like, oh, Amy, that's interesting. You're here. But Amy's like, you told me to come. What do you want? And so Bernie says, you should interview Paul for your radio. And Paul's like, no, I don't fancy it. And
he's worried about speaking, isn't he? With his voice going the way it is.
But then... And then they sort of say, no, you should do it. It'd be great. And then he says, oh, maybe I could talk about, or does Amy say, maybe you can talk about M&D. And he's like, Bernie says, no, don't do that. And he's like, no, I think I should.
Yeah, he's
really positive about talking about living with M&D, but Bernie doesn't want him to.
Right, yeah, okay.
I wonder why Bernie doesn't want him to. Number 1, maybe because she's uncomfortable. Number 2, maybe she wanted just a recording of him talking about funny things.
Yeah.
That she didn't want to, it's quite confronting to come up to somebody and say, you're going to die, please can you tell me your stories and I'll record them so that when you're gone, I can listen. But going on a radio show and just talking naturally about it would be a way around it.
I hope that there's some really good scenes. I think if they've got a good writer, that interview could be quite an affecting one. So I'm looking forward to that this week. There wasn't any, I didn't notice any like vast deterioration in Paul this week.
Well,
did
he's
you?
definitely more difficult to understand.
Do you think he was a bit more slurry now?
Yes.
I suppose he was slurry all the time now,
Yes.
whereas last time we saw him, he would go back and forth.
Again,
a
Peter
little
Ash
bit.
doing a really good
Oh,
job.
fantastic. No Billy in yesterday's episode, which is weird. I'm sure he'll make an appearance next week, but I suppose he wasn't necessarily needed.
He'll go, Amy, I know that you were supposed to interview Paul today, but I thought you could interview me. I am the Archdeacon. I'm so important. Would you like to know my soup recipe? I've got a kitchen where I sell it all. Actually, I'm not allowed to sell it anymore because they're homeless, but, you know, I do what I can. I do what I can.
Right. The number
he gave it
11,
up, didn't he?
Will's story, willpower.
This was weird.
Did you think... I didn't mind. I mean, one thing I enjoyed about Monday's episode was it seemed to start setting up some new things. Like this felt a bit new, and everything going on with Toyah and the Spade felt new. So beginning of a new filming block, I guess. So anyway, Glenda's round number 11
not
to do
me?
Is it you? I thought you did. I'm happy for this to be you because my
I'll do it because
throat
I think you
is
should.
not doing so well at the moment.
Maybe it isn't me, but I'm going to do
You
it.
do
anyway.
it anyway. What's been going on?
Glenda's round number 11,
George.
doing a washing. George comes in, says, I'm updating my will. I've got to make some new changes because, you know, Eileen and stuff. And he says, take on power of attorney if I need it. And Glenda's like, why don't you ask me? And she gets a bit, her nose put out of joint. Eileen says yes. And Todd's in the corner like, Todd goes to work... and he shouldn't really be there, should he?
Well, no, it's his day off.
Yeah.
But he decides to go along to the undertaker's office to try and curry favour with George. And I'd like to say how nice it was to see the undertaker's office again, because that's going to be the first time in, I'm going to say at least 2 years, but it might even be more that we haven't seen inside there. I wonder what else they've packed up, because this set and Roy's lounge set, we've had a huge time off screen, but yeah, good to see it again. And they seem to have acquired a new composite photo of the two Shuttleworth men in the meantime, haven't they?
Yeah.
It was funny because there's a picture of Roy Hudd being Archie, just kind of leaning up against a fence, and that's been merged with the picture of Tony Maudsley standing next to Jodie Prenger when she got the job on Coronation Street, and they did a pretty good merge of it. But then in Eileen's house on Friday, I noticed that they've got the original Roy Hudd Archie picture, so the exact same picture of Archie. They've got one with George and one without George. So,
I like to imagine Archie sitting at home going, this is a really good photo of me. I'm just going to crop George out and frame this one.
I think there was actually only ever one publicity shot of
right.
Archie Shuttleworth, so they didn't have much to go on.
They should have flipped it.
They could have at least flipped it, yeah.
Anyway, basically Todd's buzzing around George like a fly on muck because of this will stuff. And Eileen's like, just back off. Then in the pub, George tells Glenda that she's not seemed herself since the break-in. And she's like, no, I'm fine. I want it to be over. And Todd comes in and joins them, and George says, buy a drink for Glenda too. And he says, you're an idiot. Eileen's already told me that you've been wondering about your inheritance, but don't worry, because when I write my will, I am going to include you, but I'm not going to tell you how much it's for. Then on Wednesday, he puts his will in the fancy folder thing.
It was supposed to be Archie's folder, wasn't it? A little bit
right.
tatty.
So later on, Eileen finds Todd steaming open the will, and he's like, he signed the whole business over to me. And she says, would he though if he knew that he was sneaking around like this? You liar. He puts the envelope in the box. Or is he lying? I can't remember. Is he saying he...
No, he has. George has signed the business over to Todd. But it's later on we find out.
Yeah, I know, it's not his.
Yeah.
So Todd puts the envelope back in the box and he finds Archie's will. And he's like, oh my goodness. Puts it in his pocket and goes home to his mum. And immediately she realises that he's acting all shifty. And he, tells her... and they can't believe it.
It wasn't, immediately obvious what it was that we were supposed to be seeing. The camera does stop for a little bit on...
I said it was George's will.
Yeah, Archie's will is what it's saying. So Archie supposedly left the business equally shared between George and Glenda.
Yeah.
Yet what's actually happened is that George has got the whole thing.
Well, they don't know if this is actually his final will or if he's written another one since.
Yeah.
And this reminds me of Succession when they had is his name underlined, or is it a strike through? You guys know what I'm talking about.
I don't.
George comes back home and Eileen's like, Jason's broken his back. He fell off his bike in Thailand. I've got to go. I'm not going to be on Tour and Sister Act. Who told you that? But you need to talk to. No, she tells Todd, talk to George or Glenda about the will. Otherwise, I'm going to do it. So she's preparing to go on Friday, and she says, "I know you're trying to get rid of me, so I won't tell George about the will, but it's not going to work. I'll tell him anyway." And George then trying to make sense of what is written on this will, and says, maybe this is his final will, and he never got time to get it signed because it's not an official legally binding one because the solicitor's never seen it.
Yeah, I wondered at first when I saw this whether this was the actual will and somehow George just kept it from Glenda.
That's what I thought they were
couldn't
going.
happen, really, could it?
No, I'm glad they didn't go there because that's what I thought this was. That's what I thought this meant, but it's not, clearly.
George saying to the whoever it is that's reading out the will, "Don't worry, I'll tell my sister about it." Yeah,
don't read the rest of it. We get it. Blah blah blah. Yeah, I know. He's dead. Right. See you later. So, Eileen's off. She's gone. George goes to Glenda in the pub and he's like, "You know what? I just wondered, hypothetically, if you just got loads of money, what would you do with it?" And she said, "Well, I would buy Little Big Shot franchises because it's tanking. Estelle's going to sell up." And he's like, "Why would you buy a business that's tanking?" And she says, "Oh, just like with the Rovers, I have a cunning business plan that's going to turn the whole thing around, but I'm not going to tell you or the viewers. You're just going to have to pretend in your head that I know exactly what I'm doing."
We've also not really seen what the cunning business plan is that turned the Rovers around. My point. But yeah,
selling a hot pot and a pint.
Karaoke night every now and then.
So this to me makes no sense. My biggest sticking point here is that when the will came out, there's no way that Archie had a version where he didn't leave Glenda anything.
Well, I don't know why he would. Are we going to find some secret, hitherto unknown by George fallout that Archie and Glenda had, maybe? I mean, George must have wondered at some point, why did I get it all? Because what was Glenda left?
That's my point. That's what I'm trying to say.
It seems nothing. And I know it's because when George came onto the show, Glenda didn't exist as a concept. But it's difficult. I don't know why they're revisiting that one.
The way they are with each other and the way they were with their dad, nothing has been said that would make any sense as to why it would never have been mentioned or been a source of conflict that she was left nothing and George was left everything.
And Audrey was left £80,000.
So to me, I would imagine there was a will where she got given something of equal value to the business. And she was like, "Oh yeah, that makes sense. Well, I don't work there, so that's fine with me." But in what universe would you watch your dad leave the whole business and nothing to you and just be fine with it and not even say like, "You owe me a job" or "You owe me some kind of..." It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't. Yeah, I'm hoping and assuming they are going to explain this
because he's got a bloody great big house as well. I mean, it would have made sense if he had gone, "Look, Glenda have the house, you have the business."
Yeah.
But no, not even that. It doesn't really make sense.
Especially with the Audrey thing thrown in there.
Yeah.
How much money did Archie have if he had enough for a house and he could sell the business and he had £80,000?
He didn't sell the business, he left it.
Yeah, he left the business, which was worth however much it was worth. There were characters who went to Archie's will reading because that's where we found out about Audrey getting the money as well. So I don't know. It just seems like a bit of a messy area that Corrie's possibly not wise to revisit.
A big can of worms that makes no sense really if you think about it, because I can see what they're trying to do here, but it doesn't bear any scrutiny.
And no, I mean, it didn't particularly make sense that Audrey was left all that money at the beginning anyway, because she hadn't seen Archie for a good 20 years or so, 15, 20 years before that, and were they really that close? They were at one point, but why would he give her that much? It felt like it was done just so that she could have that story with Nick and David.
But also, what happened then to make Archie change from his will of giving Glenda something and George the business and then going to 50-50.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. We're going to be delving into the Shuttleworth family history, which I'm kind of interested in, I suppose.
Maybe what's going to happen is Georgie's going to keep this a secret and clumsily tiptoe around trying to fund Glenda's business. So he'll try to fulfill the spirit of the will
his guilt
without actually following it to the letter. But then she'll discover and go, oh no, I knew that. He told me he was going to give me half the business, and I said I didn't want it.
Yeah, maybe.
Because I can see that's the only way it would make sense. Like if she knew and she was like, I don't want half the business, because when she first turned up, she did don her little hat, didn't she, and do a bit of
she did a funeral because George couldn't do it.
Yeah,
Was
like
he drugged or something?
She worked there before. She knows what it's like.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there you go. That's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, but I'm loving it because I do like the family unit at number 11. I don't know when Sue Cleaver's going to be back in the programme, but it's not like she's been doing lots anyway. Great that Todd's getting another story. So
I'm just worried about Jason.
If you're the first family member to leave the street, you got to watch yourself because you are prime candidate for some kind of broken limb. I mean, poor Andy MacDonald, how many things has he broken since he's been living in Spain?
And extended recovery periods in which you have to rely on estranged relatives. Like, remember poor Adam in Canada?
Yeah, and Kirsty Soames died off screen.
Well, you got to
so
watch
really,
your back.
I mean, that's how they keep hold of you in Coronation Street. It's worse than the Institute. It's like if you leave, you leave.
We're going to break your legs.
We're going to break your legs, literally.
Right. Together after a brief split.
Let's rush through this. This isn't much, is it? We was pondering last week whether Maeve actually existed and whether Joel was going to go and see her or not. And...
Well, they do, don't they, on Monday?
Yeah, but again, we don't see it.
Joel tries to convince Michael that he wants the best for Dee Dee, but he's like, please support us. And Michael's not really feeling it. We don't know whether Dee Dee went in to see Maeve.
I can't remember. They probably
said
in a throwaway
they're back from seeing Maeve, and Joel's like, thank you for your support.
Have seen the baby.
You're so amazing. And she says, you're great too. And he goes to kiss her, and she's like, oh no. Then Alia comes in, and she's talking about clients, and Alia and Dee Dee say they miss working together, and Alia asks her about Joel and doesn't believe Dee Dee when she says they're just friends. And she thinks that they should make a go of it. And later on, Joel goes to see Dee Dee, and he's like, sorry, I kissed you. I know that you. I know that it wasn't cool. And she's like, no, I do want to go back to you, but it's not really a good time at the moment. You need to focus on your relationship with Maeve. And he says, I will never let you down again. I also love Maeve. And then they kiss each other. It's a good job I didn't write this because I'm not convinced, are you? Later on, they go to the Rovers, and Dee Dee tells Michael that they're giving it another go, and Michael's like staring absolute daggers at Joel. I thought his look was brilliant.
Yeah, he was good.
And Joel's like, I care about Dee Dee, I won't do anything to hurt her. And Michael's like, well,
I've definitely not got Lauren holed up in my secret lair anywhere, I promise.
Michael will be so happy if he finds out this that he's done that.
There is going to be, at some point in the future, there is going to be an I told you so from Michael.
So that's all that happened in that storyline. Then we've got Steve's online paramour. Friday, Tim's sceptical of this online lady friend and reckons that Steve should invite her on a date to prove that she's real. And he's like not sure how to word this, so Tim just grabs a phone and writes, do you fancy going out? But then when he looks back, Steve at the app, she's deleted her entire profile. And Abby says, look, this app's crap anyway. It's full of ads. You should use this other one.
Abby, the expert on dating apps for some reason.
I want to know. Yeah, she's like, this is £16 a month. And they're like, how much? You should see how much they're charging for a yellow rose in the florist. £4.50.
You could buy 4 roses almost for that.
If you were buying roses, you wouldn't need to go online for a date.
Very true.
I want to know at what period Abby was using these online dating services. Was it when she was on drugs? Because
she just kind of while away the evening. Once we get to like, I don't know, 6:30 in the evening, and Kevin's just snoring his head off in front of the TV, and she's like,
"What's up, baby?
Have I made a mistake marrying this old codger? Still got some life in me yet."
I'm surprised she didn't suggest that Steve have a section on her profile for some rants and bants. She loves that.
Anyway, I mean, I guess we're in for some more Steve scenes next week, so brace yourself for that, everybody. Will we get to meet Demi? I don't know.
Well,
will she be on
maybe
the other
she'll
app?
appear in
Maybe.
it, and then she'll go away for a while and come back, and you'll call the storyline Demi Moore.
Oh, yeah. I get it. And maybe Tracy will appear back in Weatherfield at some point during this story as well.
What's that got?
I don't know.
What title would you give that?
I can't just
right.
come up with storyline
so
titles.
That was the week. That was the big week of the worrisome story development that everybody was unhappy about. What do you give it, Michael?
I'm just going to straight away give this a 4. I don't know what I'm going to give it 4 of.
I know what I'm going to give it out of, but I don't know what the score is.
Oh, maybe we have to combine it then. I'm going to give it... gosh, I can't even think.
I don't know how to score
4 cases in Leanne's cabin out of 5.
Oh, yeah, nice. Cabin in the woods.
Yeah.
One of those lifts lead straight down to a chamber of horrors.
Go on.
Right, so when we did our weekly summaries... Wednesday, I refused to give my score.
You did. You did not want to give it a banging bobbins or bog standard
because
on
I just
Wednesday.
didn't know what I thought. Because my problem is I'm very easily influenced by what others say, but not in the way that makes any sense, because I go the opposite. So when everyone was going, I hate it, I was like, well, I think it was brilliant. But I don't think it was brilliant. I think that Georgia Taylor was brilliant.
I thought the episode was very good. I very much enjoyed it.
I truly regret the spoiler that came out and knowing in advance and letting it get under my skin. I'm not really happy about the retcon. I still don't know why they've done it. They need to do a lot more work to justify it, in my mind. The scenes themselves are great.
Well, like I said, I think the performances and the writing on Wednesday sold it enough for me. I think if they'd have flubbed the delivery of it, I would be feeling harsher on it now than I am.
I think I'm just going to have to give it a 3.
What?
I can't really forgive a lot of the decisions that are made, and I don't know what to say beyond that, because I just feel like it is right to say that when you start undermining storylines like that, you really do make your viewers not trust you.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing, isn't it? Like, now they've opened that floodgate. Are we going to see this again? And I don't think they will. And
it was almost a flubgate.
But and I'm sure they didn't make this decision lightly, etc., etc.
But it's not our job to defend stuff.
No.
And I don't, and I agree. I like I said before, I was a bit harsh on some of the comments, and I don't want anyone to feel like I don't feel as though you obviously justified to think whatever you want. I just think that some of it got a bit carried away with itself, and I stand by that still. But I still have reservations about it. I give this week 3 spicy hot pots out of 5 because I'm still mad.
Nice.
I'm not going to let that go.
Is
what do you mean spicy hot pot? What do you mean? I don't get it. Like, do you think that Southerners only know what Chinese hot pots are or something? Because they're not even that popular.
Of course not. Nobody knows what that is about from you and I.
And I'm mad too because we have a family hot pot. Like a special dish that we make hot pots
Ian,
in my family. We
done?
have one. And I'm waiting to inherit it. I
Right,
know what they
who's
are.
Who's your character of the week,
I've
my
never
darling?
made a spicy hot pot in my life. I've got my own recipe for a hot pot.
Is your character of the week Bobby? No. I forgot to say, I'm very, very glad that the truth about Carla and Bobby's naughtiness is out, at least with Roy, and they haven't just got away with it. Yeah,
I think
Toyah or Leanne.
My character of the week is the guy that lives in Roy's head and projects image of Lauren.
The projector. What's it called if you do that job in the
projector?
Cinema? Yeah, projectionist.
The psychopathic projectionist that takes over Roy's mind when he's asleep and murders teenage girls.
Toyah is my character of the week because
too.
Georgia Taylor was absolutely wonderful. I thought that the scene with Nick where she was revealing everything was absolutely brilliant. I felt bad for her when she was told by Leanne that she couldn't absorb her grief anymore. I just loved it. But I'm not going to like Toyah if she decides to take a shot at Nick.
I think Nick might do it. I think Nick might do it.
Yeah, who do you reckon?
Who's going to jump first?
I don't think it would be. I think it'd be Toyah.
That slag.
I think that she would be feeling a little bit vulnerable, and I think that if anyone's going to go in for the kiss, yeah, it's her. But we'll see.
We will see.
I hope it doesn't happen, but it's
God
going to
we'll
happen,
see.
isn't it?
We'll
Right.
watch it happen and we'll tell you. Oh, yes.